Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
How soon do the Bills need to find their identity this season?
Mike Danger.
I don't know that we'll get a lot of McDermott McLies, but how do they plan on deploying these two new assets?
Gene Battaglia.
I'm trying to imagine what would the things be necessary in order to pull this off on Sunday night. It's not the tallest task in the world.
Intercepted downfield by Douglas. Bengals! Nice touchdown, Leonard Fournette. The Raiders firing head coach Josh McDaniels and general manager David Ziegler. Antonio Pierce, interim head coach.
And Aiden O'Connell expected to be their new starting QB.
A home run for Marcus Simeon. It's a 3-run shot, and the Rangers are in double figures.
10 in a row on the road. It is absurd.
They can claim their first title in Game 5 tonight.
Me and my Buffalo Sabres, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that would be the Philadelphia Flyers.
Amherst Crunch, starting at 7 tonight.
Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, your top 4 in the initial college football playoff rankings.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
So much to unpack, so much to digest, so much to talk about this afternoon in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. So glad you're with us and listening along locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app where we sound our best, or even your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And we've also got our video stream up for you. You can watch the Sports Bar at The Fan Rochester on YouTube and Twitch. And, of course, we appreciate if you follow along, give us a little thumbs up, subscribe, and you'll always know when we're going live here in the Sports Bar. I'm Mike Danger. That's Gene Battaglia.
Very satisfied, Danger. I had one of our sponsors, Bill Gray's. I'm feeling very good today.
Ooh,
so, yeah.
Yes.
Next time I got to bring you along.
World's greatest cheeseburger.
It was, yeah. I had to treat myself to the Philly cheesesteak today.
Underrated plate, too. I like the Bill Gray's great plate. It's a nice little You know what I had at Bill Gray's the other day that was also underrated and surprisingly good? Their pizza was really good when I was the last time I was at a Bill Gray's.
Yeah, no, the tap room went out to in Shiloh today.
Fantastic stuff. Good. You're satisfied. I showed great restraint last night. I didn't overdo it with the Halloween candy. My youngest, who's now entering the age of like, should I or should I not go trick-or-treating, 14, she went. I think this might be the last hurrah. We'll see. But very impressive haul. You know, I'm just so proud of her. Just so proud of her. Took my 30%. Didn't eat all of it. Just, pick and choose. A couple pieces here, a couple pieces there. Not an overindulgent night of Halloween candy last night.
I didn't know we had this next generation of Halloween costumes. Like you were talking about how when we were kids and like you wear the plastic mask with the rubber band, it would be awful.
Yeah, everybody remembers that, right? Like I'm not alone.
Did you have any kids last night where you had these blow up these outfits yesterday? Like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man visited me, Cartman visited. Like that's the next gen where you're the actual character in this big blow up. Like
I got a guy
wrestler
we used to work with that I remember came to one of our Halloween parties one year. And my neighbor, Tony, I hope you're sitting down, Tony, one of my neighbors, and I were laughing about this. Still to this day, we laugh about Big Baby. His costume was Big Baby.
Oh, I remember this.
It was a blow-up costume, so it was one of those inflatable costumes that you're talking about, but it was a Big Baby. And he didn't speak all night. All he did was walk around clapping his hands like this, like a baby. And it was the creepiest, weirdest thing. And our coworker didn't say anything all night. We didn't talk to him. We didn't do anything. We just pointed and laughed at Big Baby. And I, took a reaction video of Tony as we were outside of Steve T's there getting ourselves a plate, speaking of plates, late after the party, just laughing at Big Baby walking around, clapping his hands with his wide open fingers like a baby. Just a weird, creepy costume, next generation costume.
Next gen,
That's inflatable, the dinosaur, another one of those costumes, right? The T-Rex that goes running around. I don't know. It felt last night like it was a lower turnout than normal. I don't know how it was in your neighborhood.
Yeah, well, that's called Tuesday night.
School night?
School night, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe my street is aging out of trick-or-treating because there certainly are a lot of kids that have grown up and that have gone off and graduated from high school. My next-door neighbor had their lights off. They weren't participating. My other next-door neighbor had been renting the house next door. They actually moved out yesterday. Wow. They spent all day Halloween moving out. So our house was kind of like an island. We were like one house in between two that weren't doing anything for Halloween, and maybe 24 groups of kids. Maybe the doorbell rang 24 times tops.
Yeah.
Not a turnout like I expect. Expect a little bit more.
I just think Tuesday night, and it was a little chilly last night, and you get it on a Saturday, and if it's 60 degrees, it'd be much different.
Halloween is the best, though, isn't it? I mean, like when you actually like take it all in. If you're walking the neighborhood with your kids, or if you're staying home and just seeing the excitement around the street, I just love the energy. I love the vibe. It's a great night.
Yeah, you get to talk to people you don't talk to all year.
It's a great night. Hope you had a great Halloween. We got a lot to react to from last night because news broke while you were sleeping. We'll get to that. And of course, the Buffalo Bills injury report from today, as well as the Bills get back on the field. We heard from Sean McDermott. We heard from Brandon Beane. Lots to get to. Here's what's on tap in the sports bar, and it's brought to you by our friends at Three Heads Brewing. On tap at Three Heads Brewing, cranberry grape sour ale, tart cranberries and New York State grapes coming together to make a delicious treat. Get yours at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue today. So the Bills going to Cincinnati for Sunday Night Football to take on the Bengals, and we'll talk to our buddy from Cincy Jungle on SB Nation, Anthony Cosenza, going to stop by the sports bar here at 425.
Yeah, like how did things kind of turn around for this Bengals team, and is this kind of what the pattern was last year? I mean, what is the expectation? Also, we can talk to Anthony and get their perspective, because this is a national story today, Danger, and it's going to be one on Sunday, and it's maybe we're just so close to it, like, okay, yeah, the idea that Damar Hamlin is walking back into that stadium. So certainly the way everybody in Cincinnati treated not only Damar Hamlin, but the Bills organization. I mean, like, honestly, like, they did everything right in Cincinnati. We'll talk to our buddy Anthony Cosenza coming up in the 4 o'clock hour.
And let's get some winners with the host of BetQL's Send It In. PJ Glasser, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, stops by at 3:25, as he does every Wednesday afternoon. Insider calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
Yeah, so Bama LSU is kind of that's a de facto playoff game. What I love about these games, Danger, and when you get to the 8 to 12, whatever it's going to be next year, I forget, when you only have 4, now we really have playoff football. Bama LSU, that feels like a playoff game to me in college football this week. PJ is going to give us his choice on this game. He's also going to pick Cowboys, Eagles, and Bengals, Bills.
And as we talked about yesterday, the College Football Playoff Committee just takes me. Just absolutely,
Ohio State.
Completely forgot that Washington has been playing football this season. Love that. Great stuff there. PJ joins us at 3:25. We'll have our usual fare with a round of shots coming up during happy hour after 5 o'clock. And we keep our phone lines open for you. The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Join us anytime by calling 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. Also at The Fan Rochester on Elon's Twitter. You can engage with us there.
So Rasul Douglas was kind of walking around in the portion open to practice today, but he was not in pads or anything, apparently. And I got this from Chris Brown listening to One Bills Live today. They didn't have a plane ready to go for him. Apparently, like, he had to just do what everybody else is. That is fly from Green Bay to Buffalo, which there's not exactly a direct flight. So you're going down to Milwaukee and waiting till this morning. Well, logistics meant that he was not on the practice field today, which, all right, now that gives you 2 practices here to get ready, but I would still put it within the realm of possibility here, Danger. They also have Douglas out there.
And one of the things that we heard from Brandon Beane earlier today as well was that Kyer Elam might actually make a stint on IR with an ankle injury. Didn't know anything about that. Where did that come from, Gino?
Okay.
Oh, hold on a second. Is it theory time in the sports bar? Do you have a theory?
It's not a theory. I mean, it's who really knows? But okay, he has an ankle injury. Then why hasn't he been on the injury report? Or okay, so that would be number one. That would be my first question: is why haven't we heard about this before? My second question would be, well, this would be kind of a convenient excuse to buy a little time, would it not?
Well, it gets people off of the question of why is Kyer Elam inactive on game days.
Right.
We could forget about it for 4 weeks.
Right. So
Rasul Douglas, the newest Buffalo Bill, Sean McDermott earlier today, talking about his new corner.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned from experience, and I'll share this with you guys, that it's hard to lead when you're new, right? You've got to earn the trust of the locker room, your teammates. Then and only then does the leadership start to come out. Now, I've heard things about, Rasul from a leadership standpoint, and I certainly respect that, and we could use that. But all in due time. Yeah, I mean, instincts there's things when a player possesses instincts that you can't coach, right? And it does help them get up to speed a little bit quicker. I mean, this is a guy that's kind of got off to a little bit of a rocky start early in his career, and we've been around that before and helped players in that regard develop, and he's developed, it appears, and we're looking forward to working with him.
Kyrie Irving, by the way, did not practice today because of the ankle. So maybe this happened during the Buccaneer game. I don't know.
What, on the sideline?
Maybe.
Injured his ankle, going down the tunnel?
Could have been.
Walking down the tunnel? Not wearing a
yeah.
jersey? The other new addition to the Buffalo Bills from this week, free agent running back Leonard Fournette, Sean McDermott talking about his new running back.
Here's a guy that he has accomplished quite a bit in his career, and I think it's admirable that he still feels like he has goals that perhaps he wants to work towards, right, and achieve. And I think that's just being around him a little bit this morning, very little. Just I think that's admirable, and we'll see how he fits in and how he looks as we get on the field today.
We'll see how he fits in. Can we just get the image of him and Shaq Lawson hugging it out and be done with it? We'll see how he fits in. And here's a guy, Sean McDermott, auditioning for Chris Collinsworth's job.
Here's a guy.
Wow.
Yeah, even Tirico broke out the here's a guy. If you haven't seen it, Leonard Fournette, I don't know if he was making a statement or tonight. It looked like he was wearing biking shorts. They were that tight, and thighs just protruding.
Tree trunks.
Yeah.
He's a big boy. Look, can only help, right? I don't see how, if Leonard Fournette is active on game day, how that becomes a liability for the Buffalo Bills. Maybe he doesn't have what he used to have, and maybe to expect more than 4 yards a carry is too much to ask. No, I am going to ask for 4 yards a carry. You were 3.5 last year.
Yeah.
4 yards a carry for Leonard Fournette, and I think we'll be happy with that.
4 yards and 2-3 weeks from now, learn your blocking assignments, learn what all the calls are here.
Yeah. Contribute when we need you most here down the stretch and towards the end of the season. So there's your update from head coach Sean McDermott on both Leonard Fournette and Rasul Douglas, the two newest Buffalo Bills.
I'm going to make my prediction on Douglas. I think he plays Sunday night. I don't think he starts. I still think it's going to be Dane Jackson on one side opposite Christian Benford. But you can work him in some certain situations. I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, honestly, if it's just a situation where you got to go cover somebody and you don't have to worry about any zone assignments, then let it rip.
Here's the other bit of news from the Buffalo Bills practice, and that was that Josh Allen was practicing in a limited fashion with his shoulder. Here is QB1.
Obviously, unfortunate. It's when it's your throwing shoulder, and as a thrower, you don't like feeling any sort of, I wouldn't even call it pain, just discomfort in there. And so we're just trying to stay on top of it and get ahead of it while we can. And obviously, I hate not practicing. I hate not being involved in what we're doing. But at the same time, I know this is probably what's best, and again, just putting myself in the best situation to make sure that I'm ready to go tomorrow and for Sunday.
Yeah, this is going to be something that everybody monitors through the course of the week. You and I think everybody knows, there's no chance he's not going to play Sunday night.
Yeah, very rare do you get the kind of, something related to injury right in front of you as reporters. And there we were waiting to go into the locker room following that narrow victory over the Giants. And out comes Josh Allen. He's walking over to the x-ray room. I'm like, what is that? And then you kind of okay, where did this kind of occur? And the fact that he was so bothered by it right after the game, we need to go get this checked out right now, for a team that's very secretive about such things. Would you know that this was bothering Josh Allen? Well, yeah, that kind of tells everybody when he's going to get it x-rayed right after the game. So, and
time in the medical tent against the Buccaneers, right? There was a second there where I think everybody was holding their breath saying, oh God, are we going to see Kyle Allen? The shoulder is going to be an issue the rest of the season. I don't want the shoulder to become an excuse. If bad Josh shows up, I don't want that to be, well, he's injured. It's his throwing shoulder. Okay, if it's bothering him that much to the point where it's a liability, then he does need to take a step back and let Kyle Allen take those reps.
Yeah, so, but this is Cincinnati. This is the team, for whatever reason, you can't get past here, right? Like, you knew, I mean, go back to January, the first matchup in the regular season, the Hamlin game, you knew that wasn't going to be your night, and then the playoff game, obviously. So, to me, this is the team right now. You could say it's Kansas City too, but Cincinnati is way ahead of Buffalo in the pecking order.
I just think that for them to get over on Sunday, it's going to take a different level of physicality that we haven't yet seen from this team, and an attention to detail and level of execution that really we only saw against the Dolphins. If they can play that brand of football, if they can play at that level, that high of a level, then I give them a chance against Cincinnati, and I think they could beat Cincinnati. But just based on what we've seen the last few weeks, and with these injuries mounting up and with new faces in different places, it might be too tall in order for this team right now.
I'm going to go back to what I said at training camp, because at training camp, we were going over all these different positions and battles, like middle linebacker, who's it, corner two, what about this guard position? And I'm going to continue to say this, like, what is going to determine the fate of the Buffalo Bills is, will a certain player play at an MVP level? Josh Allen. Yeah, if Josh Allen, who led the league in turnovers last year and had 4 on opening night, if Josh Allen, and I know the shoulder's bugging him, but this is one of those games, Danger, that, no, you don't need this one to get into the postseason. No, we're not going to be upset if you lose this one, but considering that this team hasn't been playing good football over the last month, and that they were fortunate to beat the Buccaneers, and you lost to the Patriots. You were fortunate to beat the Giants. You lost to the Jaguars. Now you're playing a team that you're an underdog against. This is where MVP Josh Allen has to show up. If he is turning the ball over twice in this game, they don't win.
Also interesting that something you mentioned there that they haven't been quite often, and that's the underdog role. Like, the idea that they go into this game as an underdog, will they channel that to get to another level, another gear? Will that be used as motivation, as fuel for Sunday night? I kind of want to see that happen as well. That, this is the first time that you're going to have people say that they don't believe in the Buffalo Bills. They're underdogs going into this game, and will they go and say, we knew who we were going into this game all along. We're one of the best teams in the AFC.
They read the same things we read. They say they don't. They do. Barstool calling them frauds. I don't think I would go that far. They're not frauds. They're like everybody else in this conference. They're contenders, okay? But we're not crowning them here, but we see the potential. But now's the opportunity. If they get blown out, which they could very easily. The other angle, too, the Damar Hamlin angle, he did not practice today, according to Lana Getzenberg. He's got flu-like symptoms, which, all right, if you didn't practice today and has only been active one game this year, I don't know if we see Damar Hamlin actually suited up for this game.
Before we get to PJ Glasser, the host of BetQL Send It In, joining us next in the sports bar. Speaking of frauds, the other big bit of NFL news broke under the cloak of darkness, broke at 1 a.m. By the way, nothing says I don't want to make this a big deal out of this than the release at 1 a.m., the midnight news dump.
So that's 1 a.m., I guess, give them like
10 p.m. Pacific time.
So you get back in the building. I'd love to know the course of events, how that all went down. Did Mark Davis go out to P.F. Chang's and have one too many? He's like, what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to fire him. Can I couple stories here? Because the race is on now. If you have your eyes on a certain head coach, well, get in line here. Pete Carroll feels kind of like history's repeating itself. Why am I bringing up Pete Carroll's name? Because Pete Carroll landed in Seattle because he left an S show behind at USC. Jim Harbaugh is going to leave an S show back at Michigan. He's going to be there. They'll be in the playoff probably, and he'll leave scot-free. Like he'll be on his way to the NFL, and whether that's the Raiders, whether that's your Bears, Danger, whoever that may be, I would expect him to be in the NFL.
You know, the Bears almost can't leave well enough alone. They've got their own drama brewing within their organization. But the Raiders first, Josh McDaniels and GM Dave Ziegler both being released. So it'll be former Giants linebacker Antonio Pierce handling interim head coaching duties for the rest of the season, and interim GM duties going to Champ Kelly, who's in his second season as assistant GM. Spent 7 years with the Bears, 8 seasons with the Broncos in various roles. And speaking of the Bears, off air, Gino told me this is Section 5 on Section 5 crime. It's GM Ryan Poles moving on from running backs coach David Walker. Now, what makes this noteworthy is that the Bears HR department was involved in the decision to move on from Walker, which leads to the notion that this termination wasn't prompted by anything football related.
Yeah, I got to be careful how I say this, Danger, but if you live in Irondequoit, I don't know if you're surprised by today's news. We'll just leave it at that. We have sources or whatever. David Walker's in the Section 5 Hall of Fame. Like, leave him in the Hall of Fame, whatever this is today. I'm not in favor of canceling anybody.
Right. We probably won't know specifically what led to it, but when HR gets involved in the middle of the season, yeah. And for the Bears now, the second assistant coach moved on from this season with defensive coordinator Alan Williams resigning. I'm using huge, gigantic air quotes on that one early in the season. So you've got Matt Eberflus there, the head coach, handling all of the coordinator duties since Williams departed. And you've got a hole now with the running backs coach, David Walker, being fired from the team. Just a couple of different notes. Oh, and then one more Raiders note, by the way. And maybe this was part of the decision to move on. Aiden O'Connell will be starting at quarterback for the Raiders against the Giants coming up this Sunday.
I know you want to laugh at that, but Jimmy Garoppolo can't move. Like, that back injury, and if you are really going to rebuild the team, then you're just wasting time with Garoppolo.
I just think to myself with McDaniels, he's either the scum of the earth or he is virtuous beyond what we could comprehend. You understand what I'm saying? Because to have Mark Davis say you're gone, when Mark Davis, we pretty much know what Mark Davis is, right? Like, you didn't move on from John Gruden. John Gruden happened because of John Gruden. What was it that led to McDaniels being let go? Was it an insistence that Garoppolo should continue to play, even though he's probably going to have his back look like a figure 8 by the end of the season? What was it? It feels like McDaniels is the kind of guy that's arrogant enough to never learn from his mistakes.
Well, what's interesting here is, like, why did Josh McDaniels trade? And we'll get to PJ here. PJ, I'm sorry. Why did he trade Darren Waller?
No, right. That was a problem.
Why? Because Waller was upset before he had a chance to tell his own family that he had gotten engaged. So Waller just kind of voiced his objection, but I don't know how that went. Okay, then you're traded. Like, really? What is it, like drama? What are you doing?
Yeah. The Patriot way, Gino. I'll continue to say it. Bill Belichick, he'll go down as the greatest head coach of all time, but he's a fraud. In my book, greatest head coach of all time, not just because of what he did on the field with his teams, not because of what he achieved, but because of the coaching tree that sprouted because of it. It's Bill Walsh all day. Bill Walsh is the greatest head coach of all time, not Bill Belichick. Name one Belichick disciple that went on to do anything.
I hear you, but there's 7 rings.
Yes,
that's what it is. It doesn't
7 rings with Tom Brady.
I'm sorry, you and I are judging things differently. Okay, I'm more Machiavellian. Okay, championship, all that matters. I don't care.
And a cheater, by the way.
I don't care.
And a cheater.
I don't care.
A known cheater. A known cheater. So that's my stance on the Belichick coaching tree, and another branch has been trimmed here with McDaniels being let go from the Raiders. All right, we got to get to PJ. We're running late. PJ Glasser, the host of BetQL, Send It In, stopping by the sports bar next on The Fan Rochester.
Sore, so didn't throw a lot today, and hopefully back tomorrow we'll be on the field and like nothing happened.
Now, new corner Rasul Douglas was in attendance. He did not get there in time to put on the pads. We'll talk some Bills football coming up next hour here in the Sports Bar. The Rochester Americans are home tonight. Syracuse is the opponent. Don Stevens will have your call beginning at 7. Sabres in Philadelphia tonight. The game can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. And the baseball season could end tonight. It's Game 5 of the World Series. Texas up 3-1. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It was impressive. Yeah, impressive against a very good defense. They moved the ball at will, pretty much run or pass. It was very impressive.
Have you seen Burrow? I mean, he struggled with that calf through training camp early in the season.
Again, it's hard to tell on film, but he certainly didn't look like it was bothering him at all Sunday.
Back in the Sports Bar, it's Danger and Battaglia, and joined as we are every Wednesday afternoon by the host of BetQL's Send It In, and also Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser. Insider Calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. PJ, we just heard Sean McDermott there heaping praise on Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. I know that's one that we will be spending more time on there, and especially when we're talking about the quarterback for Cincinnati. I'm too old
LSU.
to be forgetting my he played for LSU.
Guys, that was an impressive performance by the Bengals last week. Joe Burrow looked really good, and the Bills are going to have a handful this week.
Yes, peek behind the curtain, PJ. I was scrambling for the last couple of minutes here. I'm like, all right, who am I going to give PJ? Who am I going to give PJ? And then it was right there in front of me. Coach served it up for me, and I didn't really even have to do all the work that I was trying to do to find somebody for PJ to give us in his Baltimore accent. Appreciate that, buddy. You're always here to humor us. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. It's funny. When I was getting ready to come on with you guys, I thought about that. I'm like, if they don't tee me up for anything when we talk Bills, Bengals, I'm going to make sure to drop the Burrow in there. So we got it, and we're good to go.
For those new to the show, one of the first times we had PJ on, we were talking about the Women's World Cup, and he just laying it out there, and we got to Megan Rapinoe, and I just looked at Danger. I'm like, wow, we should be the last to be pointing at anybody here because we have terrible accents here in Western New York, PJ.
Oh, so good. No, I'm glad you guys do that. Me and my buddies, obviously, being around the Baltimore area, we love that accent. We just think it's the best. So whenever there's a coach, an athlete, whatever it is, I'm all game. So I love doing it with you guys, and Burrow's a good one.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, that is a solid one.
PJ, let's start with the college slate. We only had a couple games last week. I find myself in the hole a little bit for the season, so I need to gain some units here. I want to gain some ground. You're going to give us some winners, and let's start with those Jayhawks taking on Iowa State this weekend.
Guys, this is a perfect letdown spot for Kansas, right? You have a great win against Oklahoma, your 6th win of the season. You clinch a bowl berth. You beat an undefeated team. They took the goalpost all the way into the lake on campus. Now you got to turn around, and you got to play an Iowa State team in Ames. Tough place to play. And they've won 3 in a row. They're playing good football. This is one of those games, too, right, where you have an unranked team playing a ranked team. The unranked team is favored. So I think a lot of people are going to like Kansas coming off the big win, and they're a favorite team who's the underdog. I like Iowa State, though, guys. One of my favorite plays of the week. I think they cover the spread. And tough week for Kansas coming back after that Oklahoma win.
Yeah, PJ, the first college football playoff ranker came out last night, and I like to joke that it's nothing more than Takesman putting this out here. Hey, we want everybody to talk about the sport because Ohio State's really good. And when we look at the first teams that are out, they're saying, hey, Pac-12, do your thing here, and you should be the next one in here. Washington at 5. Oregon at 6 ahead of Alabama, and Texas for that matter, I find interesting. So Oregon at home against Cal. Do you like the Ducks here to take care of business, PJ?
I like the Ducks long term, Gene. I actually think they might be the best team in the country. I know they lost that game to Washington. I know Michigan's dominated everybody in Big Ten play. Georgia looked really good last week against Florida. But, man, Oregon, offensively, defensively, they easily could have won that game in Seattle. That's a team I'd watch long term. But this spot specifically this week, guys, I like Cal at plus 24. Justin Wilcox, the head coach for the Bears, is historically great in these spots. As a big underdog, he seems to always cover, and it's a good sandwich spot, I think, to fade Oregon with Utah last week in Salt Lake City. You have USC on deck next week. Everybody's hyping up Oregon, talking about how great they are. Cal just scored 49 on USC. I'm trusting Justin Wilcox and how good he has been throughout his career to keep this game within the number. So I'm going to take Cal plus the points this week.
PJ, you mentioned how good Georgia looked last week against Florida. They got Missouri this weekend. What do you like?
It's going to be a good game, guys. Mizzou is better than a lot of people realize. They have one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the SEC in Brady Cook. They have one of the best receivers in all of college football, Luther Burden, that people will get a chance to see on Saturday. And they should have beaten Georgia last year. When the Bulldogs went up to Columbia, Mizzou had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, so they're not afraid of them. They know they can play with Georgia. However, with all that being said, we've really seen Georgia get up for two games this season, the Kentucky game and last week against Florida. Both of those games, I feel like kind of coming into it, people thought, maybe Florida, maybe Kentucky could give Georgia a game, and then Georgia looks like Georgia that we've been seeing for the last 4 or 5 years. So it's a big number. It's a huge game in the SEC East. If Mizzou wins, they're in the driver's seat to get to Atlanta for the SEC title game. But I like another Georgia blowout this week, guys. I'd lay it with them.
All right, we're talking to PJ Glasser, your host for Send It In on the BetQL Network, which you can hear weekdays here. PJ, I am thinking that I'm one of the few people in the country that still likes this format in college football. I know I'm kind of alone on this, but here's my logic, because you get a game this week in Alabama, LSU. I think this is a de facto playoff game, and the team that loses this game, sorry, at LSU, 3 losses, not going to happen, obviously. And for Alabama, if they get a win here, PJ, they can build a resume maybe for sneaking in and being that 4th team. But just from a betting standpoint, how do you see this matchup coming up this weekend?
Guys, my favorite play in this game is the over. I would go over 60.5. 3 of the last 4 meetings between these two teams have gone over 61 points. And you think about LSU and their defense on the road this season. They gave up 55 to Ole Miss in Oxford. They gave up 39 to Mizzou in Columbia. They gave up 42 to Florida State in that game in week 1. And their offense is as good as it gets. Jaden Daniels might win the Heisman Trophy if he wins this game. His numbers are that good if they win out. Malik Neighbors is as good as it gets as the receiver position. So Alabama's got a top 3 defense in the country. I don't know if they're going to be able to hold LSU under 30 points. And Bama's offense has been getting better and better each and every week. Milrose playing better. I think they're going to be able to get into the 30s as well. I like the over. As for the side, total coin flip game, guys. I think this is the buy low point, though, on Bama at -3. I don't see it getting to 2.5. So if anything at 3, I think it would be Bama or pass for me, but the over is the play.
Nothing but winners on the college slate there from PJ Glasser. Appreciate PJ stopping by here at the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia as he does every Wednesday afternoon. Now we shift gears to Week 9 of the NFL, which gets underway tomorrow night with the Steelers hosting the Titans, and this could be a new-look Titans team with Will Levis. What are your thoughts on the road team coming into Pittsburgh here coming up tomorrow night, PJ?
Guys, the bet that I honestly love in this game, maybe you sprinkle a little pizza money in Titans Steelers is for there to be no touchdown in this game. It'll probably be like 50-1 or something like that. But a short week, rookie quarterback for Tennessee. Kenny Pickett's been awful. Like, this game just feels like it could be 9-6 or it could be 12-9 or something like that. I do like the Steelers, though, at -2.5. I think because Levis looked so great in his debut, he threw for 4 touchdowns, that maybe Tennessee, in people's eyes, are valued a little better than they should be. Steelers are coming off a loss, what we like. And at the end of the day, I mean, Levis is a rookie making his first career road start on a short week in a tough environment against a good coach and a good defense. So Steelers offense is a tough watch each and every week. This is going to be a close game. Titans in a teaser leg might honestly be the way to go, just pushing them up to plus 8.5. But I like the Steelers and maybe sprinkle a little bit on that no touchdown.
PJ, I know Bills fans got to be torn about this game in Germany, Chiefs and Dolphins, where sure you'd like Kansas City to win, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if the Chiefs. Oh, by the way, they didn't do anything at the trade deadline. No receiver. What is going on? This Chiefs offense doesn't look right here. Do they get right over in Germany with Miami actually getting points here?
Yeah, guys, this game's interesting because it opened Chiefs 2.5. And now it's actually down to 1.5 at some spots. So money is coming in on Miami. I just can't get there with the Dolphins. If you're giving me Mahomes in essentially a pick-em type game, I'm going to take that every time. And we've seen the Dolphins beat up on some of the lesser teams in the NFL this year. And when they've gone up against two better teams in the Bills and the Eagles, they didn't just lose those games. They got dominated. So until the Dolphins show me that they can beat a good team, especially away from Miami, and we're getting the best quarterback in football in a pick'em, I'm going to take the Chiefs. So I like Kansas City this week to win the game.
NFC East battle for supremacy here between the Eagles and the Cowboys. I cannot wait for this late window on Sunday afternoon. PJ, which way are you leaning here between the Cowboys and the Eagles?
Yeah, guys, this is going to be a good game. We got 4 really good NFL games this week. This is one of them. Obviously, Chiefs-Dolphins being another. I like the Eagles -3 in this game. I think this is going to be another typical Dallas letdown in a big spot. The market, every time they put Dallas in these spots, like the team that we kind of know that they can be, they showed flashes again of that last week against the Rams. The Eagles are 7-1. But it does feel like they play with their food a lot. Even the game last week against Washington, they easily could have stumbled and lost that game. I think the Eagles were so dominant, though, last year that when you watch them this year, it's just not the same team. But statistically, they're still top 5 offensively. They've been good defensively in some games this season, and they're at home, and Philly's a tough place to play. So I like the Eagles -3 this week.
Yeah, and the game we've been talking about, and this is a team in Cincinnati that, my gosh, in a calendar year, PJ, they could score 3 wins over Buffalo if it goes their way. And I go back to that January 2nd game, and I just looked this up. I was curious to see, all right, were the Bills underdogs going to Cincinnati that night? No, they were not. They were 2.5-point road favorites, so there's plus money on Cincinnati. The Bills were home favorites in the playoffs, and Cincinnati did a number on that. And now Buffalo getting 2 points going into Cincinnati. And what should be an emotional night with the return of DeMar Hamlin to that field. How do you see this going here for Buffalo?
Guys, it's a tough handicap. It is, because as you know me, talking to me each and every week, the Bills would be the play for me just because you guys know I like buying low on teams and selling high, right? And these two teams are obviously going in different directions. The Bills haven't looked the same ever since that London game against the Jags. The Bengals, they do this every year. They get off to a slow start, and then they just stack up wins. Burrow looked like himself against the Niners. So this line got to as high as 3, and at +3, if you got Buffalo, that's a great number. Now that it's at -2, it's probably a stay away from me. I would still lean towards Buffalo, just because it feels too easy with the way like the Bengals have looked and the Bills have looked. Like, how can you not like the Bengals in this game? So I'm going to pass. But if this gets back up to 3, I do like Buffalo in the game.
PJ, before we let you go, Rangers clinching the World Series tonight?
Oof. I don't think so, guys, because I want it to go 6. But, I mean, they're 10-0 on the road this postseason, right? I mean, it's tough to bet against them. I'm going to say no. I'm going to like the D-backs. They got Gallen on the mound tonight. They're ace. So I think they stay alive. I think we get a game 6.
Yeah, why would any team use a bullpen game in the World Series, PJ? That was just gross last night. By the time I was done with the Halloween, 10-0? I don't need to watch this. Killed the sport last night for me.
It did. And it'd be one thing if they were up like 2-0 in the series, right? And then maybe you could see it, but it's like you're down 2-1. That's a really important game, and it's a bullpen game for you. Yeah, Arizona deserved what they got. I'm glad they lost, but hoping they win tonight so we get some more baseball.
PJ, floor is yours. Let our audience know about Send It In on the BetQL network, where they can watch, where they can listen.
Yeah, guys, 1 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. You can listen on Twitch, .tv/BetQL. You can also listen on YouTube if you search Odyssey Sports. Love the live interaction from fans. Chime in with their questions, their best bets, and we go rapid fire, run through all the sports within 30 minutes. So it's a lot of fun, and hopefully people tune in. Fellas, college basketball is almost back, too. That's coming up next Monday.
Yeah, PJ, I just want to say, the one time I was on your show, picked my spot. I said the Bills plus money against the Dolphins, and they cashed in. So
I couldn't focus when I was on PJ's show the one time I was on his show because I was jealous. I was green with envy. PJ does his Sunday show from the sports book, and he's just there reacting to the games as they're happening in a sports book with people screaming, yelling, groaning, everything, all the emotion. It was fantastic, PJ.
It was great, Danger. We had you on too when the Browns were upsetting the Niners.
That's right.
So there was a lot going on there. But yeah, both times I've had you guys on, the Bills have won. So if the people want to win money, whenever you guys are on my show, we just got to bet the Bills that way.
Appreciate it, PJ. We'll talk again next Wednesday.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
You got it. The host of Send It In and Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser, Insider Calls, presented by BetMGM. Go check out all of the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
I love that guy. Gives us winners, can laugh at himself, have some fun.
I'm tailing PJ. I mean, that's all I'm going to... Well, except for his pick for tonight. I think the Rangers win tonight. I mean, his advice is important, and I value it, but I'm going to go ahead and ignore that. I think the Rangers win tonight on the arm of Eovaldi.
No, I think Zach Gallen is actually... I'm going to lean PJ's way here, and I would have thought that Arizona was dead in Philadelphia in Game 6 and certainly Game 7. Those Snakes are going to send this back to Dallas.
Do you take anything of momentum from, for as bad as last night was, they started to turn it up a little bit there with nothing left to play for at the end of the game. The bats warmed up a little bit. None of that momentum carries over tonight.
I don't think so, no.
I like the Rangers, but that's me. That's PJ Glasser. He's fantastic. Love having him on. He's saying stay away from that Bills line unless it gets to Bills +3.
It's interesting, right? And I'm trying to find it. The last time the Bills were an underdog, when was that? Was it the game in Kansas City in the regular season last year? I'm inclined to think that's what it was.
Yeah, it's been a while. All right, so next hour, we go to Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, Cincy Jungle on SB Nation. That's Anthony Cosenza, our buddy, will be joining us here. And we'll find out more about what has led to this kind of resurgence of the Bengals after a slow start. And maybe this is just what they are, or is it as simple as Joe Burrow is actually healthy now, where he wasn't at the beginning of the season? Possibly. We'll learn more about the Bengals here in a little bit. Take a break here. Come back. It's time for I'll Drink to That in the Sports Bar. We've got some takes on tap.
Yeah, what Brandon Beane did yesterday, I think you can also see, all right, when he's looking to shape his roster for 2024, this is a clear and obvious sign. I will get to that, what this could mean, not just for the Bills, but kind of point them in the direction of what they don't need for the draft here. Also, yes, I have a UFC take, but I think this story is hilarious. I'll pass this.
I have a non-sports take today and a reminder that blood is thicker than water. I'll Drink to That is coming up in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia with more next on The Fan, Rochester.
Heart failure?
Hat tricks, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
First of all, you know, with the coach they have, John's a hell of a coach and has a reputation of not fun to play against. And they're always ready to play. They're always ready to compete. They've definitely better than they were a year ago and playing much more assertive and I guess better as a group, as a team, and it'll be a challenge tonight for us.
Lots of hockey tonight. Amerks will be here on the Fan Rochester. They host Syracuse Blue Cross Arena. The Sabres taking on the Flyers tonight. You can hear that on 96.5 WCMF. It is time for I'll Drink to That. Some takes on tap in the sports bar.
Brandon Byro in the lineup tonight.
Brandon Byro!
I don't think PJ would know Brandon Byro, but he makes his NHL debut. Might be playing on the line with Tage Thompson tonight, which would be kind of interesting. Think back to that day when the Bills rolled up 48 on the Dolphins. That was 1 month ago today. That was a fun day, wasn't it?
It was the best.
Yeah, a lot has changed since then. Well, fun day, almost. It did have a damper on it. You remember the story. Seeing Trey White go down, knowing that was a season-ending injury, and you see his reaction. There's more than that, right? What's going through Trey White's mind, what's going through everybody's mind. Maybe that was it for Trey White's time here in Buffalo. And when you look at the numbers for next year, Tre'Davious White, $16.2 million cap hit, your dead cap, which would alleviate a lot in, beyond 24. Your dead cap would be 10.3 if you moved on. Well, assuming you can restructure or extend Russell Douglas, his base would probably fit in that $5 million range, which would be the exact difference there of Tre'Davious White, dead cap versus not dead cap. If Douglas balls out these last 9 games, I see this as the end of the Trey White era here in Buffalo.
That's fair. And it's a cruel business.
It is.
If you're Sean McDermott, if you're Brandon Beane, you have to recognize that the best thing for the team, the best thing for the player might actually be to part ways.
And whenever we say the Bills are loyal to a fault, here they're not. Because being loyal to a fault would have been standing pat and spending a day 1 or day 2 pick, more than likely a day 2 pick, on a corner. And we're going to battle it out. We're going to have Tre'Davious White going head-to-head, but knowing how long it took Trey last time to get back from that injury, you really would wait until midseason?
Here's the other interesting element of it. For as much as we talk about Kyer Elam potentially being a bust, the Bills didn't trade him. They didn't accept any offers. They had calls on him. They didn't listen to any offers. They had zero intention, according to Brandon Beane, of trading Kyer Elam. Kyer Elam can come back next year and be the contributor that we thought he would be this year. Last year, his performance in this defense was solid. In fact, he was better as a zone defender than he was as a man-to-man defender, which kind of goes against the narrative of everybody, he can only play man-to-man. He's a good press corner. He can't really play zone. He can't really play in this defense. He can. For whatever reason, they haven't put him out there. But could you see a world where Elam next season actually lives up to the potential of being that first-round pick and you have him opposite, whether it's Benford or Douglas, whoever it is, you've got a better corner room next season without Trey White?
Ooh. I still think, Danger, I hear what you're saying on Elam, but you're presenting the best case scenario, and I think Brandon Beane, to buy himself a little time, this ankle injury, maybe IR. Like, when did this happen, and why wasn't he always on the injury report? All these questions in my mind. He's been practicing all along up until this week. What happened? When did this happen? It's neither here nor there. Okay, you don't expect anything out of Kyer Elam. Kyer Elam is getting like a red shirt year here. Okay, he's not going to be playing. If he does, something's gone wrong here. Should the Buffalo Bills still spend a pick? Absolutely. It's a position that you need young talent all the time. And I feel bad for Trey White because the only way he comes back is if he swallows his pride and, accepts a massive pay cut. And you wouldn't do that if Trey White.
Non-sports take from me today, Gino. I came across a post in my feed last night while I was watching that Game 4, which wasn't really a game. This is my cousin whom I haven't seen since I was a kid. And we weren't necessarily close when we were kids. I'd see him a couple times a year. Admittedly, he didn't really want to hang out with me because he's a few years older than me. And you know, why would the older kid want to hang out with the younger kid when you're both kids? You know how it is. But we've connected through social media, and that's one of the positives of social media. This post from my cousin read, 3 hours sitting at my laptop taking our annual sexual harassment training. My question, who are the F-nuts that still haven't gotten the memo? Been taking training like this since the late 80s, and it's getting longer and longer every year. Evidently, the workforce is just as dumb as it ever was. Gino, I needed that. I needed a reminder that blood is thicker than water because I have the exact same thoughts on an annual basis. I have never felt so close to family in my entire life.
You and him are both wrong. It's not the workforce danger. It's just the litigious society we live in. And there's our paper trail. And you watch this and you knew it was wrong. Bang, you lose your job. Or bang, write a check. Or whatever it is.
Or just stop
sexually
harassing people.
No, right. But that's not going to change. But we need a paper trail. So watch this video and take the test. Oh, you got one question wrong. Retake the test.
Yeah.
Because which form of harassment was that?
It is getting longer and longer, though, with each passing year. Am I crazy, or is that actually happening?
No, you're a manager. I'm not. See, I just let it roll, and when you get to the test at the end, you better know. Like,
you don't want to admit that you just let it roll. You better be engaged, buddy. That better be front and center.
Dude, I've got my diploma. Everything is fine, and I'm not harassing anybody. Everything is good.
Good.
On a much lighter note, too, UFC fight in Poland danger. We go to Poland for our next story, where we had a fight between a 50-year-old woman and a 19-year-old woman. Now, wait a second. How could that even be fair? Well, they must have got kitschy with this because, well, the 19-year-old, her ex-boyfriend is the son of the woman she is fighting.
Oh, boy.
How do you think this went? Like, you need me to tell you?
No.
Of course, you are not messing with Mama Bear, all right?
No.
The 50-year-old all day over the 19-year-old.
Yeah.
They shouldn't. You should not have been able to bet on this. That would have been the easiest bet in the
Yeah.
world. You broke my son's heart. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, that's you broke my son's heart, or you weren't right for my son. How about that? Maybe that was what it was. Like, oh, you thought you could date my son? Guess again, sweetheart. Bang, you're done.
Was your mom like that? Did she have to give her seal of approval?
Nobody was ever good enough. Nobody was ever good enough. I dated a lot of girls that my mom never met, never knew of, didn't need to know, didn't need. You know, when she met Sandy, I think she was satiated. She was like, oh, she's good. She comes from a good family. They're European. I'm European. Everything worked out well. But other than that, nobody was good enough. Are you kidding me? And then there was the other part of my mom where she wanted me to be a priest when I grew up. Oh, you should be a priest.
Whoa,
you should be a priest.
I never knew this.
Yes. Oh, very religious. Spence. She's like, you should be a priest. Could you imagine me as a priest? That's what she thought.
You know, that's what they did at Aquinas when you got to like your junior year. I think it was for me, my senior year. The priest came in, sat down, and talked to you about this being a potential vocation. I'm like, okay, I'm just nodding my head and listening, and just said, Father, I'm sorry, this is not for me.
Yeah, not for me either. But boy, if my mom had her way, I'd be wearing that collar this very day. That is, I'll drink to that in the sports bar. Father Danger. That's what she wanted.
See, like next year for Halloween, do we ever become the show that dresses up for Halloween?
I've dressed up as a priest for Halloween in the past. Yes,
you're the evil
probably have
priest.
that. I probably have that costume stashed away somewhere. We'll get to Anthony Cosenza, the Cincy Jungle on SB Nation. Get the latest from the Bengals here in a couple few. We have time for your calls on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That's 866-4FAN. Oh my. Wednesday, Wacky Wing Wednesday at Good Smoke Barbecue. Buy one, get one free wings. They're giant signature wings. Buy one, get one free on all 6 and 12 wing dine-in orders. On top of that, Good Smoke Super Happy Hour. That features buy one, get one draft beers and $3 well drinks weekdays from 2 to 6. Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester. 866-4326 to join us in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Finding great candidates to hire
W239BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
A limited day of practice for Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills quarterback, was not seen out there during the portion that was open to reporters. New cornerback Rasul Douglas, he got into town this morning, didn't get there in time to suit up. Head coach Sean McDermott on the challenge of going into Cincinnati.
They score points, and they can score points on the ground. They can score points in the air. One of the top quarterbacks in the league, one of the top receiving groups, cores in the league, and so we're confident in our team, yes, but we know the challenge that lies ahead.
The Amherst home tonight. Syracuse is the opponent. Don Stevens will have the call beginning at 7. Sabres hockey tonight in Philadelphia. That game can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. And the baseball season could end tonight. Game 5 of the World Series. Texas up 3-1. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
How soon do the Bills need to find their identity this season?
Mike Danger.
I don't know that we'll get a lot of McDermott McLies, but how do they plan on deploying these two new assets?
Gene Battaglia.
I'm trying to imagine what would the things be necessary in order to pull this off on Sunday night. It's not the tallest task in the world.
Intercepted downfield by Douglas. Bengals! Nice touchdown, Leonard Fournette. The Raiders firing head coach Josh McDaniels and general manager David Ziegler, Antonio Pierce, interim head coach.
And Aiden O'Connell expected to be their new starting QB.
A home run for Marcus Simeon. It's a 3-run shot, and the Rangers are in double figures.
10 in a row on the road. It is absurd.
They can claim their first title in Game 5 tonight.
Me and my Buffalo Sabres, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that would be the Philadelphia Flyers.
Amherst Crunch, starting at 7 tonight.
Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, your top 4 in the initial college football playoff rankings.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
You know how rough a fantasy football season it's been for your hero over here? I was actually excited that Taylor Heineke was available on the waiver wire to be my quarterback 2 in a Superflex league.
Yeah, and he is getting the call this week. I think it says a lot about Atlanta, though, right? For the Falcons, they're not really a contender. They're farting around, but you really need to give Ritter more time to figure out, all right, is this the guy or not? Heineke will always be there. Heineke will give the spark this week.
They'll win games with Heineke. They're going to win that division with Taylor Heineke.
But in the end, they're not going to go anywhere, though. So is that the goal?
They'll win the division.
Okay.
That's a success compared to where they've been. They'll take that. And they can build off of that. Arthur Smith is an interesting character. Name a more... That head coach has probably... He's a head... You know what he looks like? He looks like a head coach who murdered somebody. And knows where the body is buried. Somebody buried in a desert somewhere that Arthur Smith took out.
So our guest coming up tomorrow, if you hear us every Thursday, Andy Behrens joins us. He was dressed for Halloween as Arthur Smith.
Yeah. He just looks like a serial killer. He looks like a guy that has probably buried some bodies, knows where to stash them.
He doesn't look like a guy you want to hang out with. I'll put it that way.
No, he's not. Doesn't seem like he's a lot of fun.
No, we had this like one of our first shows, like guys you would want to have beers with. He is not on my list. No,
I would not put him on the list. Andy Behrens tomorrow, 3:25, and we'll talk more fantasy football here in the Sports Bar. We appreciate you listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950. We sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app. We encourage you to check that out. Rewind, let you go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed for the next 72 hours. We're on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan, and our YouTube and Twitch video streams. Love it when you check us out on YouTube and Twitch at The Fan Rochester, and make sure you like and subscribe while you're there. Our numbers are steadily growing, slowly but surely, Gino. One day, and maybe one day soon, we're going to be singing Into the Night by Benny Mardones together on stage when we get to that magic number of 1,000 combined subscribers between YouTube and Twitch.
I want it to happen at Three Heads. I think that would be hilarious if we could do it in front of a crowd like that.
I agree.
That would be great. So again, next one, by the way, the Friday before the Jets game. which is only 2 weeks away.
Well, it's coming up.
Yeah.
Coming up. That's great. We'll have Anthony Cosenza of Cincy Jungle from SB Nation joining us here in about 15 minutes or so. It was another part of Sean McDermott's press conference today, and we touched on it a little bit last hour. The emotion of going back to Cincinnati, what it means for this team to return to Cincinnati, what it means for Damar Hamlin, Sean McDermott earlier today.
Listen, we acknowledge as a team, right, what unfolded there, and I think we're all, as unfortunate as it was, we're so thankful that Damar is in a good spot. I think we all learned a lot of valuable lessons from that on the individual level, to be grateful for every day, and then on a team level, and then on a league level, as well as just overall sports and how you handle things. And I think there's a lot of valuable lessons that were taken out of that situation, and we're extremely grateful that Damar is in a good spot. That said, we acknowledge it, but we've got a football game to play and a job to do. So that's what we're focused on right now.
We've talked a lot about what this would mean for Damar, but what about for everybody else in that team that went through? Like, you're going to be thinking, but when you walk into that locker room and that tunnel and things that aren't in your memory, oh, this brings me back instantly to that night. It's almost like when hockey teams come in, college hockey teams, you're getting a kind of a morning skate. I wish the Buffalo Bills would get in there a day earlier just to get that out of the way. Like, okay, guys, we're going to have practice out here in Cincinnati. I don't know if that's even possible, if it's even something they would consider. But, for those players like Josh Allen in that locker room was texting Aaron Rodgers, and people were all texting each other, what's going on? What's going on?
Yeah.
And thinking about their own mortality there as that's happening on January 2nd.
I would hope, my hope is for the Bills that they handle their return to Cincinnati in a similar way. And I'm not comparing what happened to Damar Hamlin to 13 seconds, but the next time they went to Arrowhead after 13 seconds, they got the W. It was in the regular season and they got the win. That if they can leave the emotion of that moment in their past, leave it in the past, let go of it, and truly be in the moment and focus on what they've got to do Sunday, I'll give them a chance. There's a lot that has to break their way, and their execution has to be as sharp as we've seen it this season for them to get over on a Cincinnati team that right now looks like one of the best teams in the NFL.
But if the Bills find a way to do this sets up everything. It's all in front of you, okay? Meaning, you're not losing at home to the Broncos. Maybe they give you a game, but you're going to win that game. You're not losing to Zach Wilson here, all right? This is like going to test your manhood. You can't lose to those guys. And then you go to Philadelphia, okay, that's kind of gravy. You go to Kansas City after that. The division is within reach if you get this victory in Cincinnati.
For sure. And I wonder how much the earlier game between the Dolphins and the Chiefs will motivate, if anything. I mean, I'm sure that they'll all say, no, we don't pay attention to that. We don't get. But you know they care, right? You know they want to say, oh, the Dolphins lost to the Chiefs, or oh, the Chiefs bounced back. They look like the Chiefs again. That kind of matters, right?
Do you think they watch? I don't know if they watch. I mean, it's kind of
they're not watching, but maybe they know or they're paying attention. Do you think?
No,
not at all. I
don't think so. I honestly don't think so.
These guys are so wired. They're just wired a completely different way. They don't pay any
think
attention
that
to
everybody in that Bills locker room kind of looks Miami and says, yeah, that's a team that we beat this year. We beat in the playoffs last year. We beat in December last year, and it took extreme circumstances and heat for us to lose them. I think they still look down on Miami.
I love what PJ said, the point he made about Miami, and you forget, because they win with so much flash and so much flair, you forget that their losses came against good teams, the Bills and the Eagles, and that they've done a really good job of beating up on bad teams.
Right. So this is kind of another test, a pretty big one for them. Can you actually beat a good team on a neutral field?
That's going to be a fun morning.
This is one where I'm like, okay, rarely am I like, oh yeah, it's Tennessee and Baltimore. Yeah, okay, it's on. Whatever, put it on. No, this is 9:30. I'm going to be right there, parked on the couch, firing that up on Sunday morning.
Anthony Cosenza of the Cincy Jungle on SB Nation, stopping by the sports bar here. We'll talk more Bills and Bengals coming up in about 10 minutes or so. You've got Amherst hockey tonight on the Fan Rochester as the Amherst look to extend their 3-game winning streak. Syracuse coming into Blue Cross Arena. You've got Sabres hockey tonight as the Sabres take on the Flyers, and we'll see Brandon Byro make his debut this season for the Buffalo Sabres. And that game you'll be able to hear on our Odyssey's sister station, 96.5 WCM.
That's because Eric Comrie going on an IR, so that gives the Sabres, hey, we don't need to carry 3 goalies? Wow, what a novel concept. So that's why Byro getting the call up tonight. He's going to get a look-see, front end of the home and home. So you've got hockey tonight. You got the World Series tonight. I, like most, all right, Halloween stuff, taking care of business. All right, game already... What? 10-0? 10-0, where all 10 runs came with 2 outs.
Yeah.
Oh.
Has that ever happened before? I know they were trying to figure that out.
Probably not. I'm going to go out on a limb and say
That's
probably
never
not.
happened?
Not even in the World Series.
Not in the World Series, yeah. That was, I know you and I differ on this one. I just see Texas beyond the arm of Uvalde, who's been just nails all postseason. They get it done tonight. What's unfortunate about it is it's not in Texas, and we won't get the rain of booze. But maybe you'll have some disgruntled.
No. Okay, that's good point. Thank you for that reminder tonight, because this is the new Gary Bettman, Rob Manfred. That's sanctimonious. I'm only going to go on my own media properties. I don't even really like baseball. I don't know that to be true, but that's just my impression. But Rob Manfred, boo the man tonight.
Can you imagine? I'm the commissioner of Major League Baseball, and I don't even like the sport.
2020 is going to be remembered.
Where's Smithers? Excellent.
Thank you. 2020 is going to be remembered as a baseball season like no other. Our clubs, and especially our players, were presented with an array of unique challenges.
Yeah, he needs to be booed. If it doesn't happen, I mean, maybe you have disgruntled and angry Diamondback fan tonight that they live up to what Texas did in 2020 when he was there in Arlington. And it wasn't even their team. It was just, we're here to boo.
We're here to boo this man.
Yeah, I'm kind of secretly just rooting for that at this point. If it happens tonight, fantastic. The other bit of news today, well, from the middle of the night, really.
I guess technically that was today.
Yeah.
Like everybody woke up this morning like, what? We had our first firing last night? What?
I think it would be the Raiders. You know, like the Raiders have been so wildly inconsistent, and there's probably a lot more to this than we'll ever know. Like, I get the sense that McDaniels is just this arrogant guy that has to have it done his way, won't learn from his mistakes, doesn't really have a resume to fall back on here. There's no real amount of success that he can draw from other than his time under Belichick, working with Tom Brady. And you've got a GM who probably, an owner who probably shouldn't have hired this combo, this head coach GM combo, the Patriot way. Just a failure, an absolute failure by the Raiders organization. And today, give them credit for admitting that failure and moving on and cutting bait from not just head coach Josh McDaniels, also GM Dave Ziegler.
I have to stress, okay, this is fake news because you half listen. I know half of you half listen. So this is fake news, but I think it's so funny who put this out there. How I wish this were true. Did you see this, Danger? And this was going around, people passing this off that this really happened. It did not happen. But can you imagine? Josh McDaniels goes in on Halloween and dresses up as Mark Davis, and Mark Davis isn't happy. And then Mark Davis takes him to P.F. Chang's, and then he opens up the fortune cookie and says, "You're fired."
That's what somebody concocted as the way it all went down?
But the way that this person presented it as fake news, they wrote it in such a way and took the screenshot to make it look like this was something that an insider was passing along. I'm like, that would
very funny.
But how would that go down? Like, and why at 10 o'clock Eastern do you do this?
Because you don't want primetime coverage. You want to bury this is the news dump, right? Why wait until Friday at 5 o'clock? We've got New York to prepare for.
So that's funny too, because if you're the head coach, ring. Why is Mark Davis calling me at 10 o'clock at night?
Just to let you know.
Just to let you know.
I put out an announcement. You're fired. The defense was game against Detroit on Monday night. The defense actually played pretty well. But for a guy whose specialty is offense, that Raiders offense this season has been horrible.
It's failure to develop quarterbacks. I mean, Carr took a step back, and
you chose to move on from Carr. You didn't want Carr.
Right.
And you brought in broken Jimmy Garoppolo.
You sent out Darren Waller. That didn't help.
Kind of a mess. But now the Raiders look to rebuild, retool as they have time and time again. It's got to be frustrating. And I know that because, man, if the Bears aren't doing the same thing in short order, I don't know what they're doing. Another coach let go from Chicago today.
Not just another Section 5 guy.
Yes. Section 5 Hall of Famer David Walker fired from the team. The HR department was involved here, so you could believe that this wasn't necessarily a football decision.
Yeah,
right.
if that's true, good luck to Mr. Walker getting another job.
Yep. So there you go. Just a couple of nuggets there, morsels from the NFL as we get to Anthony Cosenza of the Cincy Jungle on SB Nation. Love getting caught up with Anthony, and we'll learn more about the Bills' opponent on Sunday night next in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester. Surprise your loved ones with the gift of self-care by giving your loved ones a gift card from the Spa at the Del Monte. This November, for every $250 gift card purchased, receive an additional $25 gift card. A gift card allows that special someone to indulge with one of their signature spa treatments, bask in their salon services, and treat themselves to the many luxurious products in the Spa at the Del Monte's boutique. Visit them at the Spa at the Del Monte or purchase a gift card instantly at delmontespa.com.
Sports Update.
Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen was not seen at practice today during the portion that was open to reporters. He was limited. Allen would certainly be, or rather, going full bore.
Didn't do too much today, just taking it easy and just making sure that, I'm putting myself in best position for Sunday and making sure that I'm not sore. So didn't throw a lot today, and hopefully back tomorrow we'll be on field and like nothing happened.
New corner Rasul Douglas got into town this morning, so he was in attendance at practice, but didn't get there in time to suit up. We'll talk some Bengals football coming up next. Anthony Cosenza from the Cincy Jungle joining us in the sports bar. Rochester Americans are home tonight. Syracuse is the opponent. Don Stevens will have your call at 7 o'clock. Sabres in Philadelphia, that game on 96.5 WCMF. It's Game 5 of the World Series tonight. Texas can win it all. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned from experience, and I'll share this with you guys, that it's hard to lead when you're new, right? You've got to earn the trust of the locker room, your teammates. Then and only then does the leadership start to come out. Now, I've heard things about, Rasul from a leadership standpoint, and I certainly respect that, and we could use that, but all in due time. Yeah, I mean, instincts there's things when a player possesses instincts that you can't coach, right? And it does help them get up to speed a little bit quicker. I mean, this is a guy that's kind of got off to a little bit of a rocky start early in his career, and we've been around that before and helped players in that regard develop, and he's developed, it appears, and we're looking forward to working with him.
There's Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott on the acquisition of Rasul Douglas. Didn't make it in time for practice today. Learning a little bit more about the cornerback that was acquired at the trade deadline by the Buffalo Bills. We go to Cincinnati next to talk to Anthony Cosenza, the Cincy Jungle. SB Nation actually shouldn't say in Cincinnati, on the West Coast, but of course doing a great job covering those Cincinnati Bengals. Always love getting caught up with you, Anthony. Appreciate you giving us some time. And we know that Cincinnati comes in to this game on a bit of a roll. They look like one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL. The slow start, very reminiscent to what we saw to this team last year. Was this year's slow start as simple as Joe Burrow wasn't 100%?
It would seem that way given the recent results. I mean, last week he kept proclaiming he was at 100%, and he was asked about it coming out of the bye. Apparently, on the bye week, he rested quite a bit, and then they came out during the practices going into this game against the 49ers, and they started to add some new wrinkles in the offense, did some more stuff under center, because I feel like both he and the Brain Trust, the coaching staff there, felt like he was more capable of taking on a little bit more because that injury was healed. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it would be that he is back to 100% and things are clicking a little bit more. And this is a team also that has just traditionally the last few years started slow. They did so last year, and everybody thought it was the Super Bowl hangover. They go all the way to the AFC Championship game. It was a mixed bag to start the year that they went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and then it's just kind of a mediocre start early on here. So now they're kind of hitting the stride, it seems.
Yeah, and maybe part of the reason was you have some new parts on defense, and certainly from where we sit, looks like things are coming together nicely. The safeties and that secondary making the adjustment. And I guess my question is, like, when we get to these coaching interviews, and again, why hasn't Lou Anarumo landed a head coaching job? Are we just so fixated on the fact that you have to hire somebody from the offensive side of the ball because what he's doing? Name me a better defensive coordinator in the National Football League right now.
Yeah, a lot of people thought he was going to be the guy to get the Arizona job this last offseason. He went pretty far in their interview process, didn't ultimately get it, and so he'll probably be a hot name again this time around. I don't really have a good answer other than, just not a Super Bowl winning coach, I guess, at this point with the Bengals. And, again, the fascination around the league of getting the young, innovative offensive mind. It's kind of a weird career arc for Lou Anarumo. I mean, he kind of wallowed around a little bit as a position coach and, in and out of college ranks, that sort of thing, and now here he is as one of, if not the top defensive coordinator in the NFL. And then back to your previous point about the defense just kind of playing better. It's a little bit of a different. In 21, when they went to the Super Bowl, it was a lot of sacks and then just kind of get off the field. Whereas now this is more of a let up a little bit more yards, maybe a little bit more points, but more explosive plays, the big turnovers, that sort of thing. And that's what they've been relying on these past few weeks.
Anthony, we didn't bring you on to tell you about the season that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have been having because we know that they're good. But what's going on with T. Higgins? Has he rebounded from a slow start?
He had a nice week last week. I believe it was half a dozen catches or so for about 60-plus yards. So started to look a little bit more like himself last week. He did have a cracked rib a few weeks ago, so he was coming back from that. He had a decent 2-touchdown game against the Ravens early in the season, but they lost that game. And then, there was just some uncharacteristic drops and different things that were going on. And then, of course, just the general struggles of the offense with Burrow's calf. I think there's a myriad of issues. And you go back to, Burrow in the summer left. He left practice and was not available for about five weeks or so. And in that process, when we talk about the slow start and then the slow start by T. Higgins, you lose that rhythm, you lose that timing and all of that, and it takes a little while to get some of that back. So I think a couple of, minor injuries and Higgins really not playing up to his normal self, plus a little bit of that lack of rhythm. I think it's just kind of made for a mixture of a not as strong season as you would expect from Higgins, but I expect him to come back and play pretty well down the stretch.
Yeah, when we talk Bengals, we go to Anthony Cosenza, the Cincy Jungle, our guest here in the Sports Bar. So, Anthony, and to kind of relive that playoff game here a little bit for Buffalo, going into that game we were thinking, oh, look at this patchwork offensive line in Cincinnati, this Bills pass rush, and that never happened. And there were some people that said, maybe this is true, it was just the slippery conditions, going to get footing, whatever it is. Or might it just be that Joe Burrow gets the ball out so darn quick? So tell us about the offensive line. Certainly Karras is back. We see that Cody Ford is still hanging around, although not seeing much time. How has the line been, and what do you expect this matchup to be going against Von Miller and Leonard Floyd and Ed Oliver and everyone coming up Sunday night?
Yeah, it'll be a big test for them for sure. This is the best line, best performing line, most battle-tested veteran line that Joe Burrow has had at the pro level. You got Orlando Brown Jr. came over from the Chiefs a little bit unexpectedly in free agency. The Bengals swung a big move there, and with that, they were able to also solidify the right tackle spot because their left tackle Jonah Williams slid over to the right. It was a little bit of a touch and go with his. He wasn't all in on that initially, but then he made that transition, and he's been playing really well over there. And then you've got the three veteran guys in the middle there. You mentioned Karras at center, Kappa at right guard, who's capable. Cordell Volson still has some growing pains. He's a second-year guy at the left guard spot, played a little better last week. But this is by far and away not only the best line that Joe Burrow has played behind with the Bengals, but also just light years ahead of that battered line that was on the field for that Buffalo playoff game. There was no Kappa. I think Karras was banged up in that one. No Jonah Williams, no Lael Collins. So at that point they were pretty banged up, but a lot of improvement made since then.
Going back to that playoff game, Anthony, the Bengals defense did something we hadn't seen a lot of teams do, and that's slow down the Bills offense, holding them to just 10 points. What's different about this year's Bengals defense, and what can you tell us about how they play and how they might be exploited?
The defense, like I said, they've been giving up more yards than maybe accustomed to in the past couple of years. There were a couple games where they gave up a decent amount of points, but they just have a knack of creating a big play when it's absolutely needed. Last week the game was kind of getting pretty close there. The Niners were driving down. The Bengals were up by a possession. What happens? Jermaine Pratt, the linebacker, makes this excellent interception on the sideline and tiptoes down the sideline a little bit, and that just turned the game on its head. And the Bengals just started to assert further control in that one. And that's kind of been who they've been really late last year. When you look back to that playoff game against the Baltimore Ravens and Sam Hubbard he and Logan Wilson and others bat that ball out of the quarterback's hands and he runs 99 yards for a touchdown. They were giving up a lot of yards to a backup quarterback in that game, and the same thing kind of is happening here. They'll kind of bend a little bit here and there, but they'll get the explosive play, whether that's an interception from one of the young athletic secondary members, whether that's a sack fumble from Trey Hendrickson, Hubbard making a big play, the linebackers getting an interception. So I think you can expect from the Bills' standpoint them to be able to kind of move the ball, maybe put up some points, but there may be some opportunities for the Bengals as well to kind of be opportunistic and create those turnovers to get the game in their favor.
Yeah, Anthony, one guy we have on the show semi-regularly is a guy out of Kansas City. His name's Jay Binkley. He hosts the post-game on 610 Sports, and what he tells us is, we like Buffalo. The team we hate is Cincinnati. And the funny thing is, I don't think Bills fans really hate the Bengals for a couple reasons. I think Bills fans are very grateful of Andy Dalton to Tyler Boyd sending the Buffalo Bills to the postseason for the first time in 17 years. They haven't forgotten that. And two, what happened on January 2nd, I think the way Cincinnati, the community, I think the way the Bengals organization and their head coach handled everything and how they could have raised holy hell about the home field and whatnot, but recognizing that, hey, this is real life. So I guess my question here is, what do you expect just how this is going to feel with Damar Hamlin and the Buffalo Bills, and how for some this is going to bring us back to January 2nd and that kind of awful night?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little, maybe a little biased, but I do think, and I've had the opportunity to mingle with and interview and all kinds of, some of the higher profile fans and, the fans of the year, that sort of thing. The Bengals fan base is really, for the most part, a pretty classy group. The ownership group, I know they've had their share of criticism over the years based on, lack of success in the franchise, but I think they have, really embraced a lot of things, and they kind of get the landscape of the league. And I think everybody saw that situation play out last year, and very scary. Nothing we've ever really seen before. And obviously, first and foremost, Damar Hamlin's health and safety was top priority, and I think everybody recognized that. I think there was a little bit of a deal at the end there where, just because that game tweaked with their record and the schedule and all of that, they had to kind of play on the fly, but the Bengals embraced that at the end of the year. Remember the whole coin flip thing where, that was a deal where they were maybe going to play in Baltimore or in Cincinnati, that sort of thing. So they ended up kind of embracing that, but they also embraced the Buffalo Bills team, the fans. And I mean, there's a lot of images from that game in our mind's eye of, players embracing each other. I remember seeing Josh Allen and Joe Burrow just kind of hugging, and, everybody was pretty frightened. So I think this week there's going to be, a pretty special feeling and relief, and, it's going to be about football. And, so, I mean, there's obviously a lot of ties between these two organizations, though, for sure.
Anthony, right now on the Bengals roster, there's a rookie who, during the draft season, we were looking at him like, that's a guy that we would love. Andre Yoshivas. Oh, just love the player coming out of nowhere. The Princeton. Tell us a little bit about how he's acclimated here, and he's made some plays for this Bengals offense so far this season.
Well, I'll talk about him in a second, but there's a guy that your Bills grabbed that I would have loved the Bengals to grab because he's a West Coast guy, he's a Pac-12 guy, Dalton Kincaid. I was all over that guy in the draft. So I'm a little envious, I guess, in the same way of him. But yeah, we call him Yoshi, and Yoshi has been stepping in as kind of the number 4, number 5 guy, and because really of some ineffectiveness at the Bengals tight end spot, he stepped in and kind of become a little bit of a red zone weapon as an ancillary receiver in this offense. He's got 2 touchdowns the last 2 games. Not really getting a ton of snaps, a ton of looks, but making the most of it when he is out there. And he was one of those guys that was one of the big buzz guys out of training camp because of his hands, because of his speed, and putting up numbers in preseason games. And, there was never really a doubt that the team was going to elevate him to the active roster or, make final cuts because of the summer that he had. So I expect him to continue to grow. He's got good size. Like I said, he's got good hands and good speed. I think right now, there's only specific packages he will be out there just because of the talent that's in that wide receiver group ahead of him. But I think he's a guy they think they can develop into a pretty nice player down the road. And he's shown some flashes early with those, like I said, those 2 touchdown catches in the last couple of weeks.
So the trade deadline comes and goes yesterday, and when the Bills get Rasul Douglas from Green Bay, Cincinnati didn't do anything, and I thought, like, all this just speculation. They're going to trade T. Higgins. Why? Like, you wouldn't want to do that. They're contending now. Yeah. They'll figure that out. But what's the chatter here amongst Bengal fans that the team didn't go get? And was there an expectation? If there was, what would you have liked to see the Bengals acquire here at the deadline?
Yeah, I said this yesterday. I felt like it's not completely unexpected that the Bengals didn't make a trade deadline move. Sometimes they're just not the most overly aggressive organization, especially giving up draft capital because they really like to hoard those draft picks, traditionally speaking. So, I didn't expect them to really do much, but I did feel that based on where they are contractually with some of their young players, where they are right now, as kind of trying to peak a little bit and make this run to get into the postseason again, I felt like this team was the most likely to potentially make a move over the last handful of years, and they still didn't. I would have liked to have seen them, again, find a tight end to maybe bolster that group. They elevated a guy they do like off of the practice squad today in Tanner Hudson, so he's a guy that may get some looks going forward. I thought maybe backup running back might be a little bit of an issue. Rookie Chase Brown is on IR, and they're trying to find a really reliable guy behind Joe Mixon that can, give you some versatility, and they're not really finding a solid answer there. So those were 2 spots potentially that I thought about, maybe pass rush help, but I don't know that they were overly aggressive in looking at any of those spots. They must be pretty happy where they're at with things.
Anthony, Joe Burrow got his at the beginning of the season. We know that you can't pay everybody. Talk a little bit about how this roster is constructed and some of the challenges that the Bengals are going to have here in trying to keep all of these talented pieces together.
Well, they've done a pretty nice job of things so far. I mean, of course, they got the big deal to Burrow. Quietly, a lot of people forget they re-signed Jermaine Pratt, who I mentioned earlier, pretty solid linebacker. They extended Logan Wilson, another really good young linebacker for them. So those 2 guys are in the fold for a while. I know they're going to extend Jamar Chase as it were. So, I think they've done a pretty good job based on the amount of success and the amount of talent they've had in that building over the past couple of years of keeping their assets. But you've got T. Higgins' contract looming. You've got now Jonah Williams potentially playing himself into a conversation. We all kind of wondered, is this just going to kind of be a wash of a year a little bit with the position switch and his career being up and down? Are they just going to kind of let it ride for a year and go? But now you're kind of saying, well, maybe this is a guy you want to keep around long term here. Then you've got DJ Reader, the big nose tackle, who is entering a contract year that they may want to keep too. So they've got some tough decisions to make. And then, by the way, Jamar Chase, a big contract looming for him in the near future too. So they've got some big decisions to make. I don't think they'll be able to keep all of the guys that I mentioned, but I do think they will keep most of them. And if I were a betting man, knowing this Bengals organization and the positions that they prioritize, I would say that the wide receivers kind of win out in terms of who they will pay. Because if you traditionally look back even into the bad years of the 90s and whatnot, they pay their quarterbacks and their wide receivers when they are due.
Anthony, last one for me, and just curious, how was the trek up to Northern California last week? And I've heard from others, why did the Niners put the stadium there? I've heard it's like not a really convenient spot there.
It's very different. I had never been there before. So where the side I was on, the sun's kind of in your face, the way it's positioned, and where the sun is and everything, that time of day, that time of year. So it's a little, for guests, it's a little kind of wonky in that way. And, I mean, it's a nice area. It's very clean. The stadium is clean and pretty nice, but they haven't really developed a ton around the stadium. So you would kind of figure there'd be kind of this, buzz area where there's, sports bars and restaurants and all kinds of different things. And it's not really like that, especially for, the area that it's in. So I was a little surprised by it. I don't want to say I was disappointed. It just was a little bit different than I expected. Still a nice facility, and what was pretty cool, especially for the 49ers faithful, they had the dynasty, the 1980s dynasty players there, Montana, Jerry Rice, and everything. Obviously that team beat the Bengals twice in the 1980s for the Super Bowl, so they did that intentionally. But that in itself made it kind of a cool atmosphere, seeing all of those great players there pregame and at halftime.
Anthony, we've been thinking about the game. You've been thinking about the game Sunday. How do you think it all plays out? I don't know that you want to give us your prediction, but give us your prediction if you have one.
Well, it's difficult for me to say, because if you look at the games last year, obviously we don't know what would have happened in that one where Damar Hamlin went down in that game. It looked as if the Bengals were kind of asserting themselves in that one, and then of course, in Buffalo in the playoff game, that one surprised me. The result there, it was pretty dominant performance by the Bengals there. I don't know that it'll be the same. I know some people feel that it'll be kind of the same. I think in Cincinnati, like you said, I think the Bengals are maybe starting to kind of find themselves and find the answers on offense at a good time. And, I think the AFC and a lot of the good teams, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, they'll start kind of cannibalizing each other a little bit as they go forward. But I think this might be it'll probably be a closer game. I do expect maybe the Bengals to pull it out by a one possession, but again, wouldn't surprise me if it goes the other way, the same type of point margin.
Anthony, tell our audience where they can find more of your content and a little bit about Cincy Jungle there.
Yeah, Cincy Jungle is the Bengals website within the SB Nation network of blogs. So we do a lot of different stuff there, a lot of different stories, opinions, analysis, podcasts, etc. I host one called the Orange and Black Insider. It's kind of the one that's been there for a little while. We've got another couple of shows that are, we bring in interviews and players and all kinds of different stuff, and we have some fun with it. So CincyJungle.com, at Bengals OBI is the Twitter handle for the podcast, and I'm at CJ Anthony CUI on Twitter as well.
Anthony, great catching up with you, man. Have a great weekend, and let's catch up again soon.
I appreciate you guys having me on again, and I look forward to talking soon.
Thanks, Anthony.
Anthony Cosenza, doing great work there covering the Bengals for Cincy Jungle and SB Nation.
Yeah, that offensive line, that was a move that we all kind of looked past, getting Orlando Brown and then getting Williams to buy in on the right side there.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. There's a lot going Cincinnati's way right now, and the Bills feel like they're kind of being held together with bubblegum and duct tape in some spots.
But the way you hear Cincinnati's defense described, doesn't that sound like a lot like Buffalo?
Yeah, bend but don't break.
Yeah,
I want a defense that doesn't bend. That's what I'm looking for now. I just want a dominant performance. I want a defense that is dominant, not bend but don't break. Not we'll give up some points here or there, but we're going to score more than you. I just want dominant.
Who has that these days?
Well, we thought the Niners had it there for a second.
Maybe Cleveland.
Cleveland looks pretty good.
They don't play complimentary football.
No, you got to be complimentary.
Complimentary.
Yes. As you're leaving, as the defensive team is leaving the field. Sir, I do appreciate your fashion sense. Those shoes go well with those pants. Thank you.
That was a hard-fought game. You guys had a lot of effort today.
I don't know who did this pregame spread, but I've got to tell you, it is spectacular. Kudos to you. Is that the kind of complimentary football we're talking about?
No.
Oh.
No, it's not spelled the same way either.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. It's an English class with Professor Gino over here. Great getting Anthony on with us. And Anthony, my hope is that we'll talk to him again later this season.
He was being complimentary toward us. He wants to pick the Bengals. You could hear it in his voice. Yeah. He just didn't want to come in and say it.
Yeah. We got happy hour on the way next. We have a round of shots to get to next. We have your phone calls. If you want to join us, 585-866-4FAN. We welcome your calls on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4326. We appreciate you checking us out on YouTube and Twitch as well, where we are streaming at The Fan Rochester. We'll continue to discuss Bills Bengals, and what we learned today from Sean McDermott's audio, what we learned today from Brandon Beane. We've got a Bills injury report to get to, the first of the week, all on the way next during happy hour in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, and kick off the NFL season with FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame money line wager required. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Stock up for fall. Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen limited today in practice. He deals with a sore shoulder. New corner Rasul Douglas, he got there, but not in time to suit up. Head coach Sean McDermott on the challenge of going into Cincinnati.
They score points, and they can score points on the ground. They can score points in the air. One of the top quarterbacks in the league, one of the top receiving group scores in the league, and so we're confident in our team, yes, but we know the challenge that lies ahead.
Our pregame coverage Sunday will begin at 4 p.m. The Amerks are home tonight taking on Syracuse. Don Stevens will have your call beginning at 7 here on the Sports Leader. Sabres tonight in Philadelphia. Sabres hockey can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. Baseball season could wrap up tonight. Game 5 of the World Series. Texas is up 3-1. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
How soon do the Bills need to find their identity this season?
Mike Danger.
I don't know that we'll get a lot of McDermott McLies, but how do they plan on deploying these two new assets?
Gene Battaglia.
I'm trying to imagine what would the things be necessary in order to pull this off on Sunday night. It's not the tallest task in the world.
Intercepted downfield by Douglas. Bengals! Nice touchdown, Leonard Fournette. The Raiders firing head coach Josh McDaniels and general manager David Ziegler, Antonio Pierce, interim head coach.
And Aiden O'Connell expected to be their new starting QB.
A home run for Marcus Simeon. It's a 3-run shot, and the Rangers are in double figures.
10 in a row on the road. It is absurd. They can claim their first title in Game 5 tonight.
Me and my Buffalo Sabres, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that would be the Philadelphia Flyers.
Amerks Crunch, starting at 7 tonight.
Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, your top 4 in the initial college football playoff rankings.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I love the college football playoff committee. Just dishing out the take that Washington hasn't played any college football this season.
Well, I think the take is, Ohio State is the best team in the nation. Really? Like, what made me... Okay, fine. I guess it really doesn't matter who's 1, who's 2, who's 3, who's 4 at this point. But we have to do something here that's different.
We are talking about it, so mission accomplished.
That's all it is.
Yes.
That's all it is. All right, good look. Alabama, LSU.
Yeah, we got some winners from PJ earlier today. I like that PJ joins us on Wednesday and sets us up for the weekend. If you're like me, you tail PJ, you listen to what he has to say. Although I will go against him on tonight's Game 5. I think it's a mercy killing tonight. I think it's over. We already know this is going to be the lowest rated world TV ratings.
It has to. I mean, look, I love baseball. You are coming around to the sport. You're actually more into this World Series than I am, but no, it's Halloween night, and it's 7:30, 8 o'clock. Okay, then I'm doing some dishes. Oh, let me wait, it's already 10-0?
Yeah.
I'm not bothering with that.
Over before it began.
Yeah.
Over before it began. Tonight, Nathan Eovaldi going on the mound for the Rangers, and
Zach Gallen.
And Gallen hasn't been great this postseason. Now, it's still a home game, but when you're playing a team that's won 10 in a row on the road, I kind of like the Rangers tonight.
But can you imagine if you get it to game, then you could bring back Brandon Pfaadt in Game 6.
Brandon Pfaadt? Who's he? Oh, yeah, Brandon Pfaadt? Is that the guy?
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to go up to Buffalo, and I'm going to go get some hot wings and blue cheese, and then after that, I'm going to take my kids to the Bills game.
That is us.
That's us.
That is Rochester.
That is us.
That is 10 seconds of Rochester.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for the Masters to come around. We can talk about John Ram again.
Welcome to Happy Hour in the Sports Bar. Thank you so much for making us part of your everyday routine. We appreciate you listening and joining us for fabulous sports talk in the Flower City every afternoon from 3 until 6, however you're listening. 95.7 FM, AM 950. You should know that we sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app. We encourage you to download it. We encourage you to check out Rewind, let you go back and listen to any part of the show you may have missed for the next 72 hours. Follow us and subscribe on YouTube and Twitch, where our show is streamed streaming live every single weekday. We appreciate that as well, and know that you can get us on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. The Bills getting set to travel to Cincinnati. It's a Sunday night game in prime time against the Cincinnati Bengals, the scene of the Damar Hamlin incident from January 2nd. We all remember it well, and we've been talking about what this game means, not just for the Bills, but also mentally. What does it mean for the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, I'm making the suggestion where in hockey, whenever you go into a town, whether that's in college or the AHL, the NHL, you're having a morning skate, and you get acclimated to the arena and whatever, and normally the MO in football, you fly in like the afternoon the night before. You're not going over the stadium the day before. But I'm just wondering, would that help out here? Because Damar Hamlin, yes. But for everybody else on that Bills roster that was there last January, that was a traumatic night. That was when you had friends and family, everybody asking, what's going on? And you're concerned about your friend, your teammate. And just the simple fact of walking into the locker room or walking down the tunnel or things you may have forgotten about, it's going to bring you back. How mentally tough are the Buffalo Bills going to be this week?
Well, it doesn't sound like your ideas and the plans of head coach Sean McDermott as he discussed the return to Cincinnati after the Damar Hamlin incident on January 2nd.
Listen, we acknowledge as a team, right, what unfolded there, and I think we're all, as unfortunate as it was, we're so thankful that Damar is in a good spot. I think we all learned a lot of valuable lessons from that on the individual level, to be grateful for every day, and then on a team level, and then on a league level, as well as just overall sports and how you handle things. And I think there's a lot of valuable lessons that were taken out of that situation, and we're extremely grateful that Damar is in a good spot. That said, we acknowledge it, but we've got a football game to play and a job to do. So that's what we're focused on right now.
So part of that job is getting back on the practice field, which the team did today.
Yeah, I think McDermott is actually hitting the right note where I'm saying, hey, go down. Like, no, we got to go in there, and we have to be focused, and we know how to do this, because there is going to be, you're going to have news outlets, you're going to have coverage that you're not used to on this, like your World News Tonight, everything along that level. Like, it's a news story that this game is going to be happening, and this man, thanks to great advances in science and first response, and it's a night where Danger, we can kind of look back, actually can kind of celebrate that the guy is alive.
Absolutely. Well, hope it's a celebration of points for the Buffalo Bills. They're going to be going up against a team that we learned a little bit more about with the Cincinnati Bengals. Anthony Cosenza joined us last hour from the Cincy Jungle on SB Nation. He's a gentleman. He was polite. He wanted to just flat out say Cincinnati's winning this game, but he kind of was dipping his toe. I would like to say that Cincinnati's going to win this game.
When McDermott and this offense and kind of driving us nuts, right, about complementary football, this is the game. Hearing Anthony talk about how the Bengals give up yardage and you're going to be able to move the football down if the Bills can just hold on to the football and move the football and get points on every drive. Or just at least flip field position and do things like that. I think you're going to be able, with the Bills, to get first downs in this game, Danger. If Kincaid can play the same way he did against the Buccaneers, if you have a Diggs night, and if you can get contributions like you did from Shakir and from Gabe Davis, I think that the Bills can actually move the ball. My point is this. It comes down to 17. It always has come down to 17. Going back to camp, what's going to take for the Bills? Corner 2, middle linebacker, offensive guard. No! Can Josh Allen be an MVP? If the answer is yes, then this is a stage that an MVP should perform on. Is it not? It is. And if Josh Allen plays to his capability, then the Bills will win this game. My concern is, Danger, though, that the shoulder, how is this going to be nagging? Is there something more going on? Is it pain management? What's going on?
A couple things. I mean, when we talked to Anthony, we wanted to know, hey, is the Bengals turnaround after an 0-2 start, is that all on Joe Burrow being healthy? I mean, let's face it, they didn't look great their first 2 weeks. A couple of losses against good teams that we found out in the Browns and in the Ravens. They get the win, albeit it wasn't a spectacular win, and nobody really looked good in that win against the Rams on Monday night. We remember that game. We remember Burrow being extremely limited, not really being able to move around. Since then, they've lost one game, and that was at Tennessee, where it was really one-sided, 27-3. But they had their bye week after a win against Seattle in Week 6, their bye week 7. And boy, coming out of that bye, going to San Francisco, winning the way they won, now you have people once again saying, oh, Cincinnati's back, and they've got this momentum. So if Burrow's lack of health at the beginning of the season was the excuse for them starting 0-2, will Josh Allen's shoulder be used as the excuse if the Bills can't get over on Sunday night? Josh Allen talking about his injured shoulder earlier.
Obviously, unfortunate. It's when it's your throwing shoulder, and as a thrower, you don't like feeling any sort of, I wouldn't even call it pain, just discomfort in there. And so we're just trying to stay on top of it and get ahead of it while we can. And obviously, I hate not practicing. I hate not being involved in what we're doing. But at the same time, I know this is probably what's best. And again, just putting myself in the best situation to make sure that I'm ready to go tomorrow and for Sunday.
And mind you, the Bills had, 3 extra days off here coming off the Thursday night game. And this is going to be, chronic might be too strong a word here, but this is going to be an issue, I think, for the rest of the season here for Josh Allen. This isn't going to go away anytime soon.
I was wondering on the injury report, did they list Josh Allen as limited, or was Josh Allen listed as a DNP? Because he says, I hate missing practice. And I know we weren't able to see him in the portion that was available and open to the media. But the injury report today, not without some laugh out loud laughter as well.
So Josh Allen, where he was at practice, technically he didn't take a rep. So he's a DNP. Kyer Elam, we'll get more on about him because Brandon Beane actually talked about him, a DNP. Hamlin, sick today, under the weather, DNP. He may not dress. Wouldn't expect him to, actually. Balin Spector again. Quentin Morris, limited, which that's good, coming back from the ankle injury. And Rasul Douglas. Rasul Douglas didn't practice today. Why? Just got here.
On the injury report, it literally says, just got here. Is Quentin Morris being limited actually a good thing? Because the Bills' offense looked pretty good in 11 personnel. If you have Morris healthy and you invite more 12 personnel back into the...
That's a very good point, Danger. I suppose you need 2 tight ends here, and maybe Quentin Morris just doesn't see the field. I'd be totally fine with that. Rasul Douglas, the story is the trade is made yesterday, and funny thing is, if there's a smaller market in the league than Buffalo, that would be Green Bay. So not exactly easy to get from Green Bay to Buffalo. What's going on here, Brandon Beane? We can't get the private jet to go get him and get him in time for practice. Logistics talk, getting him from Green Bay to Milwaukee to Buffalo.
Not easy.
No.
But he's here. He just wasn't able to make practice today. And also within the last hour, we should point out the Buffalo Bills putting out a video with their other new acquisition. That would be running back Leonard Fournette. We were wondering if Leonard Fournette and Shaq Lawson were going to hug it out. Could we get that? And we've got Leonard Fournette and Shaq Lawson in a video that was shared by the team. No beef. We're good.
Yeah, everything's fine. Leonard Fournette. He comes in. It looks like the pants he's wearing today, they look like biker shorts. They're not, but the thighs on Leonard Fournette. When there's snow on the ground in Buffalo today. So not only is he saying this doesn't bother me, the cold, he wants everybody to know, look, instead of guns, what do you call it?
I don't like to talk about myself in this space. If that's okay, just once, maybe if I may, Leonard Fournette and I have something in common because this morning my dad run, I did the same thing. I went out in shorts. I didn't let the cold bother me.
I thought you were going to say, no, you do. You have chicken legs compared to Leonard
I know
Fournette,
I have chicken legs, but I didn't let the cold bother me. I didn't put pants on. I wore shorts like Leonard Fournette, so we have at least that in common. I don't have tree trunks for legs, obviously, Gino, but me and Leonard Fournette, we've got that toughness, that grit.
Yeah.
We're not going to let the snow and the cold bother us. Sean McDermott on his new running back.
Here's a guy that he has accomplished quite a bit in his career, and I think it's admirable that he still feels like he has goals that perhaps he wants to work towards, right, and achieve. And I think that's just being around him a little bit this morning, very little. I think that's admirable, and we'll see how he fits in and how he looks as we get on the field today.
Hard to diagnose whether or not we have any McDermott McLies. I don't think we're going to get a lot this week.
Okay, give me a bite here, and I'll tell you if we can get one.
I I will give you Sean McDermott on Joe Burrow. We've got 20 seconds on Joe Burrow.
Okay, it's a rarity. No lies.
No lies told?
I detect no lies.
No lies told. Let's see.
It was impressive. Yeah, impressive against a very good defense. They moved the ball at will, pretty much run or pass. It was very impressive.
Have you seen Burrow? I mean, he struggled with that calf through training camp early in the season.
Again, it's hard to tell on film, but he certainly didn't look like it was bothering him at all Sunday.
Oh, no. Damn. Shame on me. Did you say no? I looked great in the early season.
Yeah, well, there was one lie told at least. I don't know. I have to kind of go back and look at film. I don't really know. Was he hurt? Oh, I heard he was maybe hurt. I don't know. Was that something? Our Wednesday tradition continues, even against a team that is favored to beat the Bills.
I want to know, how long can we continue to do this before we get the, you guys, you got to, coach doesn't like it when that's coming, right?
You think so? I don't know. I like to believe that we're just far enough off the radar, just far enough away from the blast zone, from ground zero, that we can probably get away with saying he's just being polite, he's being political, and he's saying the things that need to be said, even though they are just out and out lies. I don't know. I think he was he injured? I don't know. I thought couldn't really tell. I have to go back and look at the tape.
I guess he doesn't want to get caught on tape saying, yeah, he wasn't really good at the beginning of the season. Soundbite.
Mention that Rams game, man. If you watched that game, and I know a lot of us did, he didn't look right. He did not look right in that game.
No, it's funny how I totally forgot about the Titan game, too.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, you got smoked by them.
Smoked by Tennessee, in Tennessee. But the atmosphere should be an interesting atmosphere. I don't want to call it electric. I don't know what. I'm just so curious about how the Bills respond. If the Bills, with all the injuries and everything that's going on right now, can somehow find a way to shelve the emotion of January and just focus on the present, yeah, I give them a chance. But then you have to factor in Josh Allen's throwing shoulder's pretty banged up as well. How effective is he going to be? How much is it going to bother him during the course of the night?
If DeMar Hamlin isn't inactive, like how many times would they cut away at him up in the press box or wherever he's going to be watching the game?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, over-under probably set that at least 3.
Oh, I'm hammering the over.
I
would say 5 on that.
Another Bills player talking about the emotion of going back to Cincinnati from earlier today on One Bills Live. This is wide receiver Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, I definitely think, it's something that we're all going to feel some sort of way when we get there. And I think it's, get there, definitely, acknowledge it. It's okay to, feel it in a way. But, like you said, we do have a game to play, making sure that we get our mind back to focusing all on the game and making sure that, we go out there and do our thing.
Another guy that you need to see big things from if you want the Bills to win on Sunday, Khalil Shakir, coming off his best day as a pro.
Yeah, I absolutely. And those wide receivers. Now I'm thinking about it. If you're the Bengals, how do you handle this? And this is like part of the preparation is visualizing things. How does this look on Sunday night? If I'm Sean McDermott, I want to know what's going to happen pregame, because it's not going to be here's the coin toss, national anthem, let's go. No, there's going to be something else. And if I'm the Bengals, this is what I would do. I get everybody fired up, ladies and gentlemen. January 2nd, we want to acknowledge this. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome DeMar Hamlin. Yay! And please welcome from the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, the doctors that saved his life. Yay! Something along those lines and you want to have the first responders. You want to honor everybody on this platform. It was kind of left to the ESPYs. That shouldn't be. This is the NFL. This was our people, our events. Yeah. Let's do this.
Don't make that moment happen pregame. I think that when it comes to the actual players, when it comes to the Bengals, they're going to approach this game with zero fear. I mean, they already took care of the Bills in the postseason, dispatched them, and didn't even think twice about it. They looked dominant early in that January 2nd game. I think Lou Anarumo is wildly underrated as a defensive coordinator in this league, and I think his guys are going to be a problem for the Bills offense.
Well, okay, then Sean McDermott, how good are you? How do you answer? And here's how I would do it. And maybe you saw a little bit of this in the Buccaneer game. You go with the 3 safety look. Like, what was that going to look like when they brought in Taylor Rapp? You're not bringing him in to be a backup. And what they did against the Buccaneers, that was great. They had as a rover, so to speak, Jordan Poyer. Imagine how fun that would be. If you go with 3 safeties and you force Joe Burrow to play everything underneath, I don't want Higgins beating you over the top. You certainly don't want Jamar Chase. Keep everything in front of you. Honestly, it's going to be one of those, and this is kind of the problem with football, some would say danger, is that the explosive plays, everybody's so scared of them.
You don't have them anymore.
We don't have them anymore.
Yeah, you're almost admitting that you can't get the pass rush to Joe Burrow by playing that way, right? He's going to get the ball out so fast, it's pointless. Our pass rush won't be able to get to him, so let's just give him something underneath and do our job and tackle and be fundamentally sound in that area, which they weren't in a lot of elements of that game against New England specifically. If they can clean that up, then maybe that is the game plan defensively against this Bengals offense. It's going to be a fun game, and of course you'll be able to hear the action here on the Fan Rochester. Our pregame coverage Sunday afternoon starts at 4 o'clock. Now, around the NFL, always entertaining and always a story, and sometimes while you're sleeping, the news breaks. Mark Davis, the owner of the Vegas Raiders, releasing a statement at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's 1 a.m. Eastern time. You all woke up to the alert on your phone that he has gutted the organization. Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler have both been let go. His offensive coordinator out the door as well.
Yeah, and quickly, Jimmy Garoppolo take a seat. So it's Aiden O'Connell. I view that as, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo's not the future. So if we have anything whatsoever in this other kid, let's let it go. The Raiders are punting on the season, and that's fine. I just think it's comical that you do this as a news dump, that you don't want anybody to know, that you're embarrassed so much that you're going to what set it off? Was it the Lions game? Was it the realization that you've mismanaged the quarterback position? Was it all the above? What's the plan now? That would be my question to Mark Davis. What is the plan? Who do you have your eyes set on? And it's not, Mark Davis is not a guy that has all these contacts in this league. He's going to have to write somebody a check. And the guy I think he would like to is the guy up in Michigan right now who's going to be looking for a job here. Maybe not right away, but if Jim Harbaugh is smart, he would take the route that Pete Carroll did. Pete Carroll left USC in shambles. People don't remember that now. They just remember, oh, that was a lot of fun with Leinart and reviving that program. No. There was a lot of shenanigans, and Pete Carroll got out when the getting was good. The idea that this cheating scandal is the scope of where you would have one of your staffers dress up in an opponent's hat on the opposing sideline. I mean, how brazen is that? I mean, Ohio State fans, Penn State fans, you have to just be pointing and laughing at this in Michigan. So how does this end? It ends with Michigan in the postseason. It ends with Michigan. I don't know if they win it all or they're just going to go out, but they're going to be in the playoff, you would figure. And then exiting stage right. Okay, sorry, everybody, I'm leaving behind. I know we're going to go on probation or I don't know, worse than that, but it's your problem now. I'm going to the Raiders. Is that how you see this playing out? Or to the Bears, or wherever that is.
But there's an arrogance about the Harbaughs that it would almost be like, what? I didn't do anything wrong. You're not going to get rid of me. I'm not going anywhere. This is where I'm going to stay, and I'm going to prove to you that I did this the right way, and everything you're saying about me is false, even though it's been proven that it's...
Well, the NCAA hasn't been completely neutered yet, they're not going to do anything for this season.
And everything moves so slow.
Why would you hang around if you're not going to have any postseason? If all this is true, and it certainly looks like there was some shenanigans going on, then why would you stay around when you can't go to a bowl game the following year?
I don't know. There's an arrogance about the Harbaughs that they believe they can do and say and go whenever they want, wherever they want.
I think Harbaugh is all about Harbaugh.
That's right.
Okay, so with that being said, he has always entertained the NFL, whether that was the Vikings or whoever.
But why didn't he get it?
He was using it for leverage. He didn't want it. He could have had it. He didn't prepare for the Vikings. He never wanted it. He just used it for more money. Now that he's not going to get more money from Michigan, this time is up in Michigan. They're going to be like, maybe it's best you go to the NFL. I don't know. But the point about the Raiders, though, Like, who gets that job? Maggie Gray was pushing for Dion, but I'm like, no.
He's not going.
No.
He's not. I mean, look, that would be fantastic. Oh, my God. Could you imagine? I would love it. I would love it.
Well,
It would
if you're
be
Mark
outstanding.
Davis, you have to make the call.
If you're Mark Davis, you're probably starting your courtship now, if you haven't already. But I don't think Dion's leaving. I don't think he's going to coach in the pros. I believe him when he says, my style would not work in the NFL. And we've seen that before, where you're dealing with men, millionaires, adults, and you're trying to coach them the way you coach a college kid. It doesn't work the same way. We've seen this again. When Mike Singletary was a coach of the Niners, it didn't work. Why? Because he was trying to apply tactics from just 10, 15 years earlier that a new generation of player wasn't going to buy in on.
No. I mean, like, can you imagine Dabo Sweeney showing up in the NFL? No, it wouldn't work. You can't. With these coaches who lord over programs, and that's Dion. If anything, Dion's going to go to the SEC or wherever. Like, Colorado is only a stepping stone.
The move now will be former Giants linebacker. You remember Antonio Pierce? He'll be the interim head coach. He's been the linebackers coach for the Raiders since 2022. And their interim GM will be Champ Kelly in his second season here as the assistant general manager of the Raiders. The way this all went down, I have to wonder if there's something more salacious than just the performance on the football field. Like, just how much of a douche is Josh McDaniels? We've heard stories, but how impossible is he to deal with? How arrogant is this guy? How tone deaf? How, a guy that won't learn from his mistakes. Let's face it, there is nothing on his resume as a head coach that you can point to and say, oh, yeah, he's a success.
Well, I look at the reason why you traded Darren Waller. Why would you trade Darren Waller? Okay, like, his stats were down. I get that. There was injuries, whatever. Was that really true? This happened, that McDaniels got all butthurt because he didn't get an invitation to his wedding? The Waller's wedding? I mean, that legitimately is the story out of Vegas, that's where the fracture happened. Are you kidding me?
There's so many little stories that bubble underneath the surface that never really get fully hashed out or reported on, like the alleged story of what led to Jared Goff being traded out of LA. I mean, you hear these stories, they become like little folk tales of you can't believe that would actually happen in the NFL, but it probably happens in the NFL.
I'll tell you what. This is a reason to come out to Three Heads coming up there on November 15th. That's when Danger... Is that the 15th? It's the Friday before the Jets game. It's the 17th. I beg your pardon. November 17th, because, hey, when we're off the air, yeah, we got these stories that we can't say on the air, but... little things that we hear about maybe your favorite NFL team.
Love sharing those stories, and we'll love the opportunity to hang out with you again here coming up Jets Week at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue, our little home away from home for Friday Football Talk Live. Now, the Raiders are a dysfunctional mess. The Bears are challenging them. They've now moved on from not one, but two assistant coaches this season. Earlier this year, it was defensive coordinator Alan Williams, who resigned. I'm using the big, huge, exaggerated air quotes, and there was a lot of smoke around that resignation as to why that resignation happened. And now, today, you have word that running backs coach David Walker, Section 5, Hall of Famer David Walker, has been fired from the team.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to own him. I don't want to cancel him, but
you don't want to. We're Rochester, man. We're very provincial. We don't want to take ownership of him.
Right? You didn't even know he went to a run to quit. I'm like, I told Dangerous, like, hey, they fired him like that. That's David Walker.
When?
In the 90s, he was a big running back.
Because I wasn't here.
But this is your team. This is like you would think. I never pointed it out that this. Yeah, he was a coach with the Lions and the Colts.
That's right.
But people in the Irondequoit community, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not sure David Walker gets another chance in the NFL.
Well, when you find out that he was let go and the HR department was involved, then you have to wonder, okay, this really wasn't about anything having to do with his job as a coach on the football field, and maybe David Walker was doing some stuff within the organization that David Walker maybe shouldn't have been doing. We've all taken the training, so we all kind of know right from wrong, I would hope. But maybe Walker needs a good 3-hour session in front of a laptop taking his sexual harassment training the way the rest of us do.
JD writing in, the fan Rochester is our handle on X, formerly known as Twitter. My favorite part of the Michigan sign stealing scandal is Michigan fans taking to the X to blame Ohio State. Endless entertainment. That's going to be a whole nother level. I mean, can you imagine we're only 3 weeks away?
It's going to be great.
From that showdown, the Saturday of Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, we've got a de facto playoff game happening between LSU and Alabama this week. That game is going to be the Michigan-Ohio State game, as it is every year. It's going to be special.
Okay, so Alabama wins this game, and Florida State continues to play in the SEC that, kind of watered down. Like, that's when the committee is going to get cute here, right? If Alabama continues to step, would you take a one-loss Alabama over undefeated Florida State?
I think you're still taking the undefeated Seminoles on that one.
Okay, Washington, who beat Oregon, but they didn't really have any non-conference.
Washington is an interesting one to watch here. It wouldn't surprise me if Washington steps on a rake between now and the end of the regular season. They've been too cute. They've been they're farting around with teams they shouldn't be messing around with. They're good. Don't get me wrong. Their record is what it is, and they beat a very good Oregon team. But yeah, I think if you were to play that game 3 out of 5 times, Oregon probably wins that game 3 out of 5 times.
Okay, so let's play this out. Georgia wins would you see, like, you would need a one-loss Georgia and a one-loss Alabama. They would both get in. If Michigan lost to Ohio State, Michigan's out, right?
Haven't really played anybody, right? That's the knock on Michigan. Who have they played?
Bowling Green.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, it'll be a fun thing to keep tabs on here through the course of the rest of the regular college football season. And if you missed PJ Glasser, who gave us his picks from Saturday's slate and also some Week 9 NFL picks, you can go back and listen anywhere you get your shows. Just search out the Sports Bar in the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. And you can also use Rewind inside the free-to-download Odyssey app and go back and listen to any part of the show you may have missed for the next 72 hours. A round of shots next in the Sports Bar.
Oh, I didn't even realize this. Michigan still has to go to Penn State coming up.
Yeah.
Penn State can take care of this. Come on.
Settle down.
Oh.
Settle down.
Yeah, I got a little carried away there.
I think a lot of Penn State fans are saying, Gene, did you see what happened? Settle down.
No, they get excited. This is the Penn State. They're like Bills fans. They just the wave like right now. But by the time game day, boy, we're beating Ohio State. Are you? Are you really?
Yeah.
Tell me more. Is it a good idea to have a bullpen game in the World Series? Well, not for Arizona last night. Baseball could end tonight. Interesting line combination coming up for the Sabres tonight. We'll set you up for that game as well. Because Syracuse basketball tonight, too. NBA. We haven't even touched on the NBA. Busy night here with 13 games coming up. And something I've been kind of oblivious to, but what do you do when your son is dating somebody that you clearly don't like?
Is this happening to you?
No.
Oh.
No. This is a sports story.
I mean, do you take it to the ring?
You might.
Okay. Did we talk about the MMA?
No. That's a different story. These are names you actually know in the world of sports.
All right. Well, we're going to get to that and more next with a round of shots. We've got last call coming up, and you can join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. More next on the Fan Rochester.
update.
Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen did not practice today as he deals with a sore shoulder. Certainly he wants to do more.
Didn't do too much today, just taking it easy and just making sure that, I'm putting myself in best position for Sunday and making sure that I'm not sore. So didn't throw a lot today, and hopefully back tomorrow we'll be on the field and like nothing happened.
New corner Rasul Douglas was in attendance today, but he didn't get there in time to suit up. Rochester Americans are home tonight. Syracuse is the opponent. Don Stevens will be by at 7 o'clock with the call. The Amherst entering tonight have won 3 in a row. The Buffalo Sabres, the home and home with Philadelphia. Tonight in Philadelphia, the game can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. The baseball season could end tonight. It's Game 5 of the World Series. Texas is up 3-1. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey is your home for all the audio that matters to you. Download the Odyssey app today to listen to the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
These teams don't like each other. There's a good, healthy hatred between each other. That happens when, like with Utica, like both teams play hard. I think all three of us, we have our own styles, but I think all three of us are teams that are committed to being hard to play against, physically engaged. Hard-nosed players. They play each other 12 times, played them 17 times last year, played Utica 17 times the year before. I mean, that builds some healthy hatred, which usually makes the games very good.
You'll be able to hear that hatred tonight. The Amherst hosting the Syracuse Crunch coming up at 7 o'clock here from Blue Cross Arena. And, of course, yes, the Sabres will be on CMF tonight as well. Let's get to a round of shots.
Yeah, maybe having a bullpen game for Arizona wasn't such a bright idea. Texas scored 10 runs before the end of the third inning. All of them, this is the part I can't believe, coming with 2 outs. Corey Seager hitting his 3rd home run of the World Series. The final ended up being 11-7, cosmetic runs at the end for Arizona. The Rangers now 1 win away from their first championship. Nathan Eovaldi taking the mound for Texas tonight. Zach Gallen from the Diamondbacks. 8:03 first pitch on Fox. We're at opposite ends here.
Yeah, we're split on this one. I think Texas closes it out tonight with Eovaldi on the mound. You think that the Diamondbacks hold on. But either way, if it does end tonight, please, can we shower Rob Manfred with booze? If you're a Diamondbacks fan in attendance, can you do the right thing? We know Texas fan would do it because they've done it before.
Baseball did a good job of keeping this quiet, but can you imagine a team having to take out a loan just to meet payroll? This happened. This just coming across the wire. Evan Drellich covers the Padres for The Athletic, said the Padres took out a loan for $50 million in September to address short-term cash flow issues and meet their obligations, including player payroll. Now we understand. Oh, wait a second. Our manager makes $4 million a year. Yeah, the Giants. Yeah, you can have them. They are going to have a fire sale danger. Part of the reason was, and it didn't impact us all this, but those RSNs, those regional sports networks. Okay, the Padres won in San Diego, where that wasn't blew up. No money coming in. All this, so you can cross the Padres as being a team that would be going after Shohei Ohtani after reading this story.
Yeah, they can't afford him. They can't afford to pay the players that they already have. You're going to bring in him for over $500 million? Forget it.
Like, have you ever heard that? A team like Major League Sports.
That's crazy.
Yeah, isn't it? Tonight, the front end of the home and home for the Sabres in Philadelphia. Brandon Biro making his NHL debut, called up from the Amherst. He's taking this spot for rookie Zach Benson. Benson is week to week. He has the lower body injury. The Sabres can get back to 500 with 2 points tonight. That is on 96.5 WCMF, TV side on TNT.
Okay.
College basketball here tonight. Do you know where the College of St. Rose is located?
Never heard of it in my life.
No, me neither. It's a Division II school in Albany.
Oh, shame on us.
And they get the big stage tonight in Syracuse. Wouldn't that be funny? If that
big stage in Syracuse. Watch your tongue. There's no big stage in Syracuse.
It's the second of 2 preseason games for the Orange men's basketball team. If you want to get an early glimpse of Adrian Autry's team, game at 7 o'clock tonight on ACC Network Plus. The regular season opener for SU, that is Monday night at home against New Hampshire.
All right, so I'm wondering if ACC Network Plus is part of ESPN Plus, and if it is part of ESPN Plus, we'll be able to watch it if you're an ESPN Plus subscriber. Damn it, everything has a plus on it, and I don't know what's what and where I can see. Just tell me, can I see it or can I not see it?
I think your choices tonight would be World Series, Sabres, and then the Sports Bar will tell you what happened.
No, I want to see Adrian Autry's team against
what it is,
St. Rose. I had to check.
It's one of those things like, wait a second, they're tied in the second half. Louisville lost to a Division II team, right? There was St. John's lost to a Division II team. So, I don't know, it can happen.
It feels like a loss, Gene. Feels like a loss for the Orange tonight.
Meanwhile, Syracuse head coach, Syracuse AD, John Wildhack, asked this question: should the Orange make a bowl game? Would that be enough to keep the job for Dino Babers? Wildhack pivoted off the question.
As good
answer.
Politicians do.
The Orange football team plays Friday night at home against Boston College. I think that tells you everything you need to know. San Antonio rookie Victor Wembanyama dressed it up as Slender Man for Halloween. Remember that movie from a few years ago? The Spurs coming back from 20 down to stun Phoenix at the buzzer. Wembanyama had 18, 8 rebounds, 4 blocks in the win. Tonight, 13 games in the NBA. Knicks at home against Cleveland. Sacramento is at Golden State. The doubleheader on ESPN has the Pelicans and Thunder at 7:30, followed by the Clippers and Lakers at 10.
Very good.
And finally, although the couple has yet to officially announce their engagement, Marcus Jordan would like it to be known he wants his father, Michael Jordan, to be his best man when he weds his girlfriend, Lara Pippen.
No, wait, hold on a second.
Larsa Pippen.
Is this where I think it's going?
Well,
you just said a very familiar last name there.
Yeah, Larsa Pippen. Marcus going to Pablo Torre's podcast to share the news. Now, this is one thing that I've been oblivious to about Larsa Pippen. I thought she was the daughter of Scotty.
Oh, that's what I thought too, because that's a very familiar name, and you're mentioning Michael Jordan and a Pippen in the same.
I'm having a Kenny Albert moment, meaning like Danger actually thought that Marv Albert was the father of Kenny.
Yeah,
Albert.
that's his son. Kenny's his son, right?
Kenny is his son, right?
Kenny's his son, but I thought they were brothers.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Well, I thought that that Larsa Pippen was the daughter of Scotty. She's not. She's the ex-wife. She's 49.
Oh, Christ.
He's 32.
What are we doing?
She was married to Scottie Pippen from 1997 to 2021.
Oh,
no wonder Michael's like, I don't approve.
No.
She's also on the Real Housewives of Miami.
Oh,
that's
giant red flags.
Yeah.
Run.
No.
Run. Get out of there. Throwing flags all over the place on this one.
And look, to Marcus, you are a fame whore. If you want your dad to be the best man, you don't go on some anonymous podcast and say, well, I'd like my father to be the best man. No, you ask him.
Well, of course you'd like him to be your best man. He's Michael Jordan. I want Michael Jordan to be my best man. Who wouldn't want Michael Jordan as your best man? Of course you want him as your best man. You don't have to go on a podcast for that. Do right.
Imagine you're married to Scottie Pippen and you want to get back at him. And you can't marry Michael Jordan, but you can marry his son.
Oh, this is bad. All you had to say was Real Housewives of Miami. And I'm like, nope, get out of there. Run, kid. Get out. Get out quick. Well, that's a mess. Was Jordan stepping away from his ownership of the Hornets just so he could deal with these headaches? Like, I like to
enjoy retirement. Yeah, what am I doing?
I liked working better. Let me go work for this organization again.
But seriously, like we know like what. And there was somebody in your family that was dating somebody they didn't like, and your wife and your sister-in-law came to me and like, I don't have nothing to do with this when they're dating.
Right.
Yeah, like what do you do as a family when you're dating somebody?
You keep your mouth shut.
You have to keep your mouth shut.
You keep your mouth shut. And you just kind of grit your teeth and you try. You try your best. But you generally just kind of go with it. You keep your mouth shut. Stay out of their business. They're adults. But that's a tough spot. That's a tough spot. I wouldn't blame MJ for ducking out of that one.
Yeah, like how do you get together the holidays or whatever?
It could be a game time decision on that one. Last call next. We say and utter the most dangerous words in all of sports talk. We go to the phones. 866-4326. 866-4FAN if you want to join us before we close up shop here on the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan, Rochester. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Get ready to start the NFL week off right, because right now all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay for Thursday Night Football. Just place a 3-leg same-game parlay on this week's game between the Titans and Steelers, and you'll get bonus bets back if you don't win. NFL same-game parlays are the perfect way to combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payday. Build your own or choose from one of the popular same-game parlays pre-built for you in FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. Visit FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E. Put a little wind in my sails and don't miss out on your chance to get a no-sweat same-game parlay on America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
I really don't like my furniture.
I hate that for you.
I'm going to go get a new sectional and...
4326, The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Lots of hockey tonight, including here in the Flower City Blue Cross Arena as the Amerks host the Crunch. We'll have that for you on the Fan Rochester starting at 7 o'clock. Sabres in Philly tonight. That game on CMF. We're back tomorrow starting at 3 o'clock. To recap all of it and to get one day closer to the Bills and Bengals on Sunday Night Football, the most dangerous words in all of sports talk radio as it's closing time here in the Sports Bar. We go to the phones and welcome in that Spartan, John from Rochester. How are you, bud?
Hey, I'm doing great. You know, I got to tell you, you were talking about Jim Harbaugh earlier. That guy, I'm telling you right now, he was kind of a Bills killer when he was playing for the Colts. This guy was so competitive, and he was a heck of a quarterback. I don't know if many people remember that, but he was a Bills killer with the Colts. He used to kill some of our playoff chances at like 95, 96. But I got to tell you, also, Dino Babers, you got to feel sorry for this guy. I think he's a great coach, but can you imagine trying to recruit players to Syracuse, New York? That city is a dump. The campus is nice, but the city's a dump, and they got to put up with the climate. So, Dino, I hope you can hang in there because you deserve to. What do you think?
Wow, John,
Syracuse is a dump.
That's the take of the year. There we go. And with that,
well, I don't think that they're. To be fair, when they're bringing recruits in, I don't think they're taking them around Syracuse. Like, here's Destiny. Check it out. No, like the campus is. The campus. It's beautiful.
Campus, then they bring them down, what is it, Armory Square down there.
Yeah.
You have a little lunch. And you're not bringing them in the winter. You bring them in the fall and look at the dome and we're playing this.
I don't feel any sympathy for Dino Babers. I mean, like, Dino Babers, you know, kind of spitting the language of losers a couple of weeks ago and talking.
Portal.
Right. Like, no, man. Same rules apply for everybody. And I don't know what you guys need to do to get that going. But if all things are equal and it's just about buying your roster, then go buy your roster. Go figure it out.
I don't know. Dino would come into the show all the time and be positive and all that energy. And
yeah,
I don't think maybe it's just run its course here.
Maybe. I hope not. I like Dino Babers. I really do.
Well, you got to show something. Like another 5-win season, not going to cut it.
Right. Appreciate the call, John. Syracuse is a dump. It's the Crunch tonight.
Oh, for everybody listening.
Speaking of Syracuse, the Crunch tonight at Blue Cross Arena. Don Stevens has the play-by-play call on the way here just over an hour from now, coming up at 7 o'clock. If you missed Anthony Cosenza, PJ Glasser, or any of the show, find the Sports Bar wherever you get your podcasts, including the free-to-download Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, and more. Search out the Sports Bar. And don't forget about the video stream every day on YouTube and Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe there as well. Tomorrow, we'll be joined by Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy. And Thad Brown, News 8 Sports, joins us at 4:25 to talk more Bills and Bengals here on The Fan.
Golisano Institute for Business and Entrepreneurship is business education.